Chapter 39-26. All right. You're a man, but when the time comes, this stupid pig will be beaten to death. You asked for it. Meng Tong laughed coldly as if his scheme had succeeded. Among all the Clear Cloud Pavilion's new disciples, the last one to arrive was Murongzhen. None of the new disciples were dissatisfied with this arrangement. After all, women always had their own privileges at times like this. Not to mention, Murongzhen was an alluring and powerful beauty. When they saw the spiritual pet fluttering around Murongzhen, everyone's eyes lit up. Even as men, they could not help but sigh at the sight of it. What a dazzling and dreamy butterfly. When it spread its wings, the size of this butterfly could be said to be astonishingly large. Its body was 3 m long, and its wings had a wingspan of 15 m. Its dazzling wings were dotted with specks of sparkling and translucent blue light. At first glance, it was like a magnificent screen that would enchant one's heart. Butterfly Empress, show them how charming you are. Murongzhen ordered with a proud smile. As soon as she finished speaking, the giant butterfly, which she called the Butterfly Queen, immediately flew into the air. With a slight flap of its wings, blue light sprinkled down. It was dreamy, like a fairy. Be careful, there's something wrong with these scale pollen. Lin Yi reminded her softly. Then, he brought Xiao Ran and the rest out of the range of the blue light. However, the other newcomers were not as vigilant as him. They were still immersed in the beauty of the Butterfly Queen, unable to extricate themselves. After a while, Meng Jueguang, who was the strongest among them, finally realized that something was wrong. He suddenly realized that his limbs were not listening to him. During the month that the newcomers were busy taming the spiritual pets, he had successfully broken through and was now a mid-stage foundation building expert. His level was far above everyone else's. As for Murongzhen's Butterfly Queen, although it looked dazzling and dreamy, its strength was only mid-stage heaven stage. With the disparity between them, logically speaking, it was almost impossible for it to affect Meng Jueguang. However, at this moment, Meng Jueguang's limbs were indeed numb. Even if he could barely move, it was extremely strenuous and slow. As for the other rookies who were much weaker, they could not move at all. Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and the rest could not help but look at each other when they saw how the crowd was struggling in vain. They looked at Murongzhen and the Butterfly Empress with fear. This guy really couldn't be underestimated. Murongzhen, what exactly do you want? Meng Jueguang felt that he had lost face along with the rookies under the watchful eyes of everyone, so he immediately berated him with a sullen face. Murongzhen covered her mouth and giggled after admiring the horrified expressions on the newcomers' faces. Senior brother Meng, don't worry. This is just a little joke that I'm playing with everyone. The paralysis effect will disappear automatically within 2 hours, and there won't be any side effects. Everyone, don't worry. Hearing that, the rookies all heaved a sigh of relief. However, Meng Tong said anxiously, then what do we do for the next 2 hours? Everyone can't move at all. Why are we having a spiritual pet battle? He had been looking forward to this day for a long time. He was hoping that the black-backed rod ape would go on a rampage and help him boost his morale. But now, he was paralyzed to the point where he could not even move. What was there to be proud of? Since it's a spiritual pet battle, it's not like you're the one fighting. Does it matter if you can move or not? Murongzhen looked at him mockingly. She pointed to her surroundings and said, can't you see that all of you spiritual pets have already escaped? They aren't affected, so why can't you have a spiritual pet battle? Meng Tong was stunned and he was speechless. Regardless of how strong the spiritual pets were, they had long sensed that something was amiss. Just like Lin Yi and company, they quickly retreated to the side. Only their masters were left standing on the spot in a daze. Now that they had been affected, who else could they blame but themselves for being stupid? If someone else were to tease him like that, Meng Jueguang might have taught them a good lesson. It was a way to establish his authority when he was promoted to the position of 3rd Pavilion Master. However, the other party was Murongzhen. She was a capable helper that he would have to rely on in the future. Furthermore, he was her guest, so he could only turn a blind eye and pretend to be magnanimous and tolerant. Since Meng Jueguang did not say a word, the other rookies naturally did not dare to say anything. Although Meng Tong did not have much of a brain, other than drooling over Murongzhen, he was actually quite afraid of her. Hence, even when the referee arrived, everyone was still paralyzed to the point where they could not move. The spiritual pet battle began in such a strange atmosphere. As mentioned before, the final points of this spiritual beast assessment were made up of two parts: the spiritual beast's level and the spiritual beast's strength. The spiritual beast's level was clear at a glance, and the points could be calculated directly. As for the spiritual beast's strength, it was won by the spiritual pet's own performance through a single round of elimination. Although such a rules setting seemed fair and reasonable at first glance, strictly speaking, there were still some disadvantages and shortcomings. After all, not all spiritual pets were combat-type spiritual pets. For example, a spiritual pet like Lin Yi's Sky Thunder Pig was pure trash in terms of combat power. However, its unrivaled treasure hunting characteristic meant that its value was far beyond that of ordinary combat-type spiritual pets. Just like Li Jingming's Ghost Tiger, it was an existence with strategic value. Such a strategic spiritual pet, according to the rules of the spiritual pet battle, was almost impossible to obtain high points. This was actually a very unfair thing. However, since the higher-ups had already given such rules, even if it was not fair, there was not much to criticize. Even if one was dissatisfied, one could only hold it in. After all, this was a world where the strong were respected. So what if one was a strategic spiritual pet? If one's fist was not as hard as the other person's, then one deserved to be unlucky and cry in one's own grave. Under the supervision of the referee, the rookies went forward to draw lots to determine their opponents. Apart from Lin Yi and a few others, the others walked like zombies. Fortunately, they could still move, so they did not embarrass themselves. A1. Lin Yi looked at the number on the wooden lot and searched among the crowd. Finally, he locked onto a rookie and his lips curled into a smile. At the same time, the rookie looked in Lin Yi's direction. He held the A2 tag in his hand. This rookie was publicly recognized as the weakest, Cha Wu. Chapter 39-27. The referee glanced at the two of them and announced, A1 versus A2. Since A2 did not fight against a pet, it will be deemed as an unconditional forfeit. Therefore, A1 wins. He didn't have to do anything at all, he'd just drawn a lot and advanced to the next round, and he'd gotten 10 points for free. The newbies looked at Lin Yi enviously. He's so fucking lucky to encounter such a thing. What the fuck? Meng Tong's body stiffened and he could not help but curse. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi's level was frighteningly high, but he wasn't a match for any of the spirit pets present. One had to know that once these spirit pets became spirit pets, the pressure between them would lose its effect. Skybolt Pig was a spirit pet that didn't know how to fight. No matter how high its level was, it was still trash in the arena. He did not expect Lin Yi to draw such a good lot in the first round. With the help of the weak Cha Wu, he directly advanced. Just thinking about it made him feel suffocated. However, Meng Tong changed his mind and thought, it's better this way. It's best if I encounter him in the next round. When that happens, I'll let the black-back stick ape tear this stupid pig apart and let the pretentious leader vomit blood. Clear Cloud Pavilion had a total of 16 new disciples. Including Cha Wu, 4 of them were unable to tame a spirit pet. Therefore, according to the probability, in the first round of 8 matches, there was a certain possibility of 2 people without a spirit pet facing each other. At that time, it would be difficult to arrange the matches. Yet, no one knew if it was the judge's intention, or if it was just fate, but the first 8 matches didn't have an awkward situation where the 4 of them faced off against each other. Of the 8 matches, Lin Yi included, all 4 of them advanced directly. Lin Yi, Xiaoran, Li Jingming, and another mid-tier newbie were the beneficiaries of the first round, which meant that Lin Yi, Xiaoran, Li Jingming, and another mid-tier newbie. In other words, although there were 8 matches in the first round, there were only 4 that were really intense. Among these 4 matches, other than Meng Tong's black-back rod ape, which easily crushed its opponent and advanced to the next round, the other match was like Mars colliding with Earth. It was quite interesting and was the focus of the first round. The 2 opponents were Murongzhen's Butterfly Queen and Xiao Hongcai's Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle. There was no need to doubt the Butterfly Queen's strength. She was in the middle stage of heaven rank and could be ranked in the top 3 among all the spiritual pets present. Moreover, it was thanks to it that everyone, including Meng Jueguang, were paralyzed. On the other hand, Xiao Hongcai's Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle was also not a kind person. It could be considered as the one with the most potential among all the spiritual pets present. Although it was only a cub, its strength had already reached the early stage of heaven rank. Moreover, it was a natural fighting race. Its combat power was fierce and definitely not to be underestimated. It was a duel between 2 powerful spiritual pets. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to use it as the finale of the tournament, but no one expected that they would encounter each other in the first round. If they weren't paralyzed and unable to move, the newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion would have been exclaiming in surprise. They rubbed their palms together and prepared to enjoy this rare show. Unfortunately, it took a lot of effort for them to even turn their heads. If they wanted to watch, they could only strenuously squint their eyes. Both of them had the expression of a bitter woman. As they spoke, the 2 spiritual beasts, the Butterfly Queen and Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle, rose into the air one after another and were on guard against each other. They circled and flew into the air. Originally, according to the normal rules of spiritual pets, there were restrictions on the arena like the newcomers' challenge. As long as they fell out of the arena, they would be eliminated. However, the 2 spiritual pets in front of them were flying, so there was no such thing as falling out of the arena. Therefore, the referee adjusted the rules at the last minute. If either of them fell to the ground, they would be eliminated. Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle, let's strike first and attack with our claws. Xiao Hongcai instructed the Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle. Although the owner could not intervene in the battle between spiritual pets, they could use verbal commands to assist in the battle. After all, after a spiritual beast was subdued and became a spiritual pet, due to the excessive brainwashing of the spiritual pet talisman, its wildness and spirituality would inevitably be much weaker. If it was allowed to fight freely, it would often become stiff and clumsy. This could only be remedied by the owner's commands, helping it to exert 100% of its combat power. Under Xiao Hongcai's command, the Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle immediately launched an attack. Its figure was like lightning, and it instantly pounced on the top of the Butterfly Queen's head. Its 2 sharp claws mercilessly clawed down. The hardness and sharpness of an adult Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle's claws were comparable to that of a divine weapon. Even if Xiao Hongcai's cub was slightly inferior, its innate combat talent was there, so it would not be much worse. How cruel! How could you do such a cruel thing to my beautiful Butterfly Queen, such a beautiful and dreamy creature? What an unromantic and hateful fellow! Murongzhen pretended to be angry and glared at Xiao Hongcai, then chuckled, but it doesn't matter, Butterfly Queen, let's play with it. In everyone's eyes, the Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle's claw attack speed was already extremely fast. If they were in the position of the Butterfly Queen, there was no other way but to resist. However, the Butterfly Queen easily dealt with it. Butterflies had never been a tough and overbearing creature, and the Butterfly Queen was no exception. Even if it was in the middle stage of Heaven stage, it would not be a match for the Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle if it really wanted to fight head-on. But then again, it did not need to fight head-on at all. It just fluttered its wings and easily avoided the opponent's claw attack. At the same time it flapped its wings, sparkling and translucent blue light sprinkled out from its wings. The eyelids of the people below who were struggling to raise their heads suddenly twitched. Wasn't this the culprit that caused them to become like this? However, Xiao Hongcai did not panic at all. She instructed in a deep voice, use your wings to fan it back. The ghost-eyed golden eagle immediately flapped its wings fiercely, and a gust of wind blew away the sparkling and translucent blue light. As long as it did not directly touch the body, the butterfly queen's paralysis powder would naturally have no effect. Humph, you think you can get rid of it like this? What a fantasy. Butterfly queen, use the blue vortex to give this stinky bird a good bath. Murongjin snorted with contempt. As soon as he finished speaking, the paralysis powder that had been blown away by the ghost-eyed golden eagle strangely gathered back together. At the same time, the butterfly queen began to spin around the ghost-eyed golden eagle at high speed. The paralysis powder scattered from her wings became more and more. In a moment, it actually condensed into a small tornado. Chapter 39-28. The outcome has been decided. The ghost-eyed golden eagle is done for. Meng Jueguang squinted his eyes. Meng Tong and the others around him also had expressions of agreement. The tornado created by the butterfly queen might not be lethal, but in terms of numbing effect, it was absolutely unparalleled. Everyone present had experienced it firsthand. Even if the ghost-eyed golden eagle's physical resistance was much better than that of humans, it was impossible for it to escape this disaster when trapped in this kind of paralyzing powder vortex. According to the predetermined rules, once the ghost-eyed golden eagle landed on the ground, it was bound to lose after it was paralyzed. Unexpectedly, Xiao Hongkai had no intention of giving up just like that. Instead, she said with certainty, that might not be the case. You're really stubborn. I originally wanted to let you go. Since that's the case, there's no need to be courteous. Butterfly queen, suck it dry. Murongjin ordered with a cold smile. Everyone could not help but be shocked when they heard that. Only then did they remember that the butterfly queen, a spiritual beast that looked beautiful, was actually a very horrifying creature. Other than the paralyzing powder on its wings, its mouth was long and narrow like a normal butterfly's, but it was extremely sharp. It was said that it could even penetrate a few inches of iron plate. What was different from a normal butterfly was that the butterfly queen was a true carnivorous spiritual beast. One of its favorite things to do was to insert its mouth into the target's body and suck the blood and internal organs dry. In everyone's eyes, Murongjin's instruction was already a death sentence for the ghost-eyed golden eagle. Because it was trapped by the butterfly queen's paralyzing powder, the ghost-eyed golden eagle would not even have the chance to struggle and escape. Following Murongjin's instruction, the blue tornado in midair suddenly dispersed. At the same time, two figures intertwined in midair and descended rapidly. Boom! After a muffled sound, it stirred up a cloud of dust that lingered for a long time. After a while, the dust gradually dispersed and everyone finally saw the current situation clearly. For a moment, everyone, including Murongjin, had their mouths wide open as if they had seen a ghost. The ghost-eyed golden eagle, who thought that it was going to die, was now clutching its opponent's torso with its claws. Its sharp claws were stained with blood. As for the butterfly queen, she was actually being stepped on by it. How is this possible? How could my butterfly queen lose? Murongjin was so shocked by the scene that she could not come back to her senses for a long time. At the same time, the referee announced, C1 against C2, because C1 fell to the ground first after the butterfly. Therefore, the C2 ghost-eyed golden eagle is declared the winner. At this moment, not only Murongjin, the rest of the people present looked at each other in bewilderment. It was clearly the butterfly queen who had the absolute upper hand just now. The ghost-eyed golden eagle was just a piece of meat at the side of her mouth. How did he suddenly become like this? I can't understand it. Hongkai, this ghost-eyed golden eagle is very compatible with your personality. You've really picked up a treasure this time. Lin Yi applauded with approval and appreciation. Meng Jueguang and the others could not understand, but Lin Yi saw it clearly. The ghost-eyed golden eagle was indeed in a critical situation just now and it was indeed paralyzed. However, at the same time that it was paralyzed, the ghost-eyed golden eagle used its sharp claws to clamp the butterfly queen's ribs on both sides so that the butterfly queen did not even dare to move, let alone suck its flesh and blood dry. She was forcefully grabbed by the eagle and smashed to the ground, which was why the scene in front of them turned defeat into victory. In fact, if she had not been caught by the ghost-eyed golden eagle, the butterfly queen would have won because the ghost-eyed golden eagle had been paralyzed and could not move at all. It was basically a live target. The key to victory this time was not how strong the ghost-eyed golden condor was, but its spirit. Even if it was about to die, it would still charge forward with an indomitable spirit. Just from this point alone, the blood energy of this ghost-eyed golden condor was indeed very compatible with Xiao Hongkai himself. TSK, such a good situation, but you actually made a mistake. Useless trash. Murongzhen scolded with a cold face. Then, without looking at the butterfly queen on the ground, she turned around and left. This woman is really cold-blooded. Just now, she seemed to like the butterfly queen so much. Now that she lost, she immediately ignored it. She met the wrong person. Lin Yi shook his head speechlessly. Xiao ran and the others nodded. Murongzhen was a living example of what a cold-blooded person meant. Now that they thought about it, Meng Jueguang and the others were really unlucky. Now that Meng Jueguang had power and influence, Murongzhen would try to please him in every possible way. However, once she lost her value, she could only wait to cry. It was already very merciful for this kind of woman not to hit them when they were down. When Xiao Hongkai went forward and carried the paralyzed ghost-eyed golden eagle away, the butterfly, which was covered in blood, finally regained its freedom. Following the scent left by Murongzhen, it barely flapped its wings and disappeared from everyone's sight. With the end of the battle between the ghost-eyed golden eagle and the butterfly queen, the first round of the spiritual pet battle was finally over. However, the referee did not give these spiritual pets any time to rest. The second round of drawing lots followed. This time, the opponent that Lin Yi drew was actually Xiao Hongkai. This result made Xiao Hongkai greatly relieved. She rejoiced, fortunately, its boss. If it was someone else, I really wouldn't be willing to give up just like that. As there was no time to rest, his ghost-eyed golden eagle was now paralyzed and unable to move. It was not realistic to want to fight with other spiritual pets, so he could only take the initiative to admit defeat. There was no other way. This was the rule set by the higher-ups. Only through continuous battles could the limits of the spiritual pet's strength be truly displayed. As for the fact that some people had a bye and some opponents were weak, it could only be said that there was no absolute fairness in this world. Many times, luck was also a part of strength. In the first round, he faced Cha Wu, who did not have a spiritual pet, and advanced without a bye. In the second round, he faced his own lackey and advanced directly. Today, Lin Yi's luck made people speechless. It was not only Meng Tong. Even the other rookies looked at the referee strangely. If this referee was not an inner sect disciple appointed by the higher-ups, they would even suspect that he had been bribed by Lin Yi. Otherwise, how could Lin Yi have such dog's-hit luck? Without doing anything, he had obtained 20 points for no reason. Lin Yi's carefree manner made the other rookies extremely envious. If looks could kill, Lin Yi would already be riddled with holes. Chapter 39-29. In terms of strength, both of them were at the early stage of heaven rank. In terms of racial talents, the ghost tiger could turn invisible, while the bewitching eye tyrant rabbit could charm. They were both very troublesome and powerful talents. Moreover, both of them had a bye in the first round, so they were on the same starting line. That was indeed the case. Just like the previous battle between the ghost-eyed golden eagle and the butterfly queen, this battle also ended in a lose-lose situation. The difference was that the outcome of the previous battle was quickly decided after the first encounter, while this one was a protracted battle. The talents of both sides were extremely troublesome. Neither had a good way to deal with the other. In the end, it naturally evolved into a battle of patience and stamina. In the end, Li Jinming's ghost tiger was slightly better, successfully advancing with injuries all over its body. The strong list was finally released. Lin Yi's skybolt pig, which had never been used before, Meng Tong's black-back monkey, Li Jinming's ghost tiger, and another newcomer's fire fox wolf. When the results of the third round were out, the long-awaited newcomers finally had the chance to see Lin Yi make a fool of himself. Because this time, he was going up against Li Jinming's ghost tiger. In the previous battle, the ghost tiger's strength had been fully displayed. To be honest, even the confident Meng Tong could not help but break out in a cold sweat after watching it. If it was in peak condition, even his black-back monkey might not be able to defeat Li Jinming's ghost tiger. Not only the ghost tiger, but others such as Qiao Hongcai's ghost-eyed golden eagle, Murongzhen's butterfly queen, and Xiao Ran's bewitching eye tyrant rabbit were all very troublesome existences. They could pose a sufficient threat to Meng Tong's black-back monkey. Fortunately, these troublesome fellows had killed each other in advance. From this point of view, Meng Tong's luck was quite good. Even if it could not be compared to Lin Yi's amazing luck of consecutive draws, it was not far from it. Lin Yi's luck had finally run out this time. Even though Li Jinming's ghost tiger had previously fought and both sides were injured, it still wanted to oppress his weak skybolt pig. That would still be a piece of cake. The third round of spiritual pet battle started with Meng Tong's black-back monkey once again oppressing his opponent. Then, everyone, including Meng Jueguang, was waiting for Lin Yi to make a fool of himself. Li Jinming wasn't a piece of trash like Cha Wu, who didn't even have a soul pet, and he wasn't Lin Yi's follower. As far as everyone knew, Li Jinming wouldn't let Lin Yi level up for no reason. Everyone was looking forward to it. Lin Yi's skybolt pig finally stepped on the arena for the first time. Looking at this honest fellow's silly appearance, Meng Jueguang, Meng Tong, and the others could not help but raise their eyebrows. Such a fellow with no combat power had actually made it all the way to the semi-finals. How could such a thing be justified? Fortunately, when they saw Li Jinming's ghost tiger step on the arena again, everyone immediately cheered and danced. This time, they could finally find the balance in their hearts. A stupid pig would always be a stupid pig. Even if it had a frightening level of heaven stage great perfection, it still could not change its nature as a trash. In front of Ghost Tiger, it was just a piece of trash that could not resist at all. This was the beautiful wish that Meng Jueguang and the others had. They were waiting for the next part of the plot. However, just when the referee announced the start of the fight and the show was about to start, something suddenly happened on the arena. Everyone was directly dumbfounded. The majestic ghost tiger actually softened at the knees in front of the harmless skybolt pig. It directly knelt down in front of everyone. What the fuck? Meng Jueguang and the others instantly went crazy with anger. What the fuck is going on? With such a turn of events, even the referee was stunned. After a while, he finally reacted and went on the arena to check Ghost Tiger's breath. With a face that did not know whether to laugh or cry, he spread out his hands and said, "Ghost Tiger is in a coma due to his heavy injuries. Hence, the winner of this fight is Skybolt Pig." When the referee said that, Meng Jueguang and the others were directly dumbfounded and could not speak for a long time. In the first round, Cha Wu had a bye. In the second round, he faced Xiao Hongcai, but she took the initiative to admit defeat. Now that he finally faced Li Jinming, in the end, Ghost Tiger directly suffered heavy injuries and fell into a coma. Could this fellow Lin Yi be the legendary son of luck? If not, how could a person's luck be so strange? Forcefully allowing a stupid pig without any combat power to win 3 rounds in a row and enter the finals? Junior brother Lin, your luck really leaves me speechless. I really have to give it to you. Even the bitter senior brother had a face of disbelief. Everything that happened today was as if it was made up in advance. Even if he saw it with his own eyes, it still felt like it was fake. Lin Yi smiled faintly and did not reply. If the first 2 rounds were indeed due to luck, then in the third round, Li Jinming's Ghost Tiger fainting was not purely due to luck. Lin Yi could 100% guarantee that this was the order that Li Jingming secretly gave to Ghost Tiger. Although in the previous round, Ghost Tiger and Bewitching Eye Tyrant Rabbit did indeed have a hard time with Ghost Tiger's strong physique, as long as it did not collapse at that time, there was no possibility of it losing without a fight. This was Li Jingming deliberately giving in to Lin Yi. With his current position as an undercover agent, he could not openly admit defeat like Xiao Hongkai. He could only use this method that no one could find fault with and force him to admit defeat. I really didn't expect that a pretentious leader like you deserved to be struck by lightning. I don't know how much dog shit you ate to have such dog shit luck. Meng Tong sneered with a ferocious expression. But it doesn't matter. Your dog shit luck ends here. Just like what I said before, let my black-back stick ape personally tear that stupid pig of yours to pieces. Just wait to vomit blood. Hee hee, how would you know if you don't try? Maybe later you will find out that you are the idiot who swallowed dog shit. Lin Yi smiled indifferently and then signaled Skybolt Pig to go on stage. Squeak, squeak. Skybolt Pig snorted and then jumped into the ring again. His talent did not include fighting, but for Lin Yi, he was still willing to fight with all his strength. At the same time, the black-back stick ape also slowly walked into the ring with a strong and domineering aura under Meng Tong's signal. Bang! The black iron rod was casually propped on the ground, and a few cracks the width of a finger appeared on the hard stone floor. The black-back stick ape's strength was obvious. Chapter 39:30. Hearing that, the black-backed stick ape snorted and made a very human-like gesture to Tianlei Pig, which was to slit its neck. Everyone in the audience smiled knowingly. Although the challenge had reached this stage and had nothing to do with them, they still wanted to see Tianlei Pig die and Lin Yi suffer. After all, Meng Tong won in the end because of the powerful strength of the black-backed stick ape, so they had nothing to say. However, Lin Yi, the pretentious leader, really couldn't stand it anymore. He got to this stage purely because of incomprehensible luck. If he could get out of this stage unscathed, they would be envious to death. As the saying goes, comparisons are odious. It was okay to be strong, but how could they feel satisfied with the fact that he was so lucky all the way? If they were in Lin Yi's position, they would definitely quit while they were ahead. Anyway, they had already earned 30 points for nothing. If they took the initiative to admit defeat, at least they could get out of this stage unscathed. They wouldn't be so stupid as to let Tianlei Pig die on the stage. But then again, Lin Yi was recognized as the strongest newcomer after all. Even Murongzhen, who was at the peak of the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm, was no match for him. Since he had made an appointment with Meng Tong in advance, he could only bite the bullet and accept the challenge. Otherwise, he would lose face in public. From this point of view, Lin Yi, the pretentious leader, was really cold-blooded. For the sake of his own reputation, he didn't hesitate to let his pet die for no reason. Squeak. Squeak. In the face of the black-backed stick ape's provocation, Tianlei Pig was obviously a little scared, but he still bit the bullet and responded. However, his cry was really not intimidating. Instead, it seemed even more weak and pitiful, which made people laugh. The black-backed stick ape had the same contemptuous expression on its face as Meng Tong's. It clenched its fists so hard that they made cracking sounds, and walked unscrupulously toward Tianlei Pig step by step. As for the black iron rod, it was stuck vertically on the floor behind it. Meng Tong's order was for it to tear apart the Skybolt Pig, so it naturally didn't need to use the black iron rod. The black-backed rod ape was not only skilled in using rods, but it was also rumored that it possessed boundless arm strength. It could tear tigers and leopards apart with its bare hands. Tearing apart a heavenly lightning pig with its bare hands was nothing difficult for it. Looking at the ferocious and bloodthirsty expression on the black-backed rod ape's face, even the audience, who were waiting to watch a good show, could not help but shiver. This fellow was truly savage. At this moment, Lin Yi suddenly said, "Hey, monkey on the stage, I advise you not to underestimate your opponent." Otherwise, you won't be able to rest in peace. The black-back stick ape was stunned for a moment. It glanced at Lin Yi mockingly and continued to walk arrogantly toward the skybolt pig. Meng Tong sneered. Pretentious old man, you're only bluffing when you're about to die. Do you think it'll work? It's useless to say anything now. Just wait and see that stupid pig of yours get torn in half. That scene will definitely be very beautiful. It will leave a deep impression on you for the rest of your life. Wahahaha. Deep impression? Lin Yi smiled playfully and shook his head. I don't think so. I've killed many people, but not many of them can leave a deep impression on me. It's the same for my spirit pet. It's also very forgetful. Killing a monkey is not a big deal to it. It won't remember. You have a sharp tongue. Meng Tong choked. He then gritted his teeth and instructed, Black-backed rod ape. Hurry up and do it. When that stupid pig is torn into pieces, I want to see if you can still be so stubborn. As soon as he finished speaking, the black-backed rod ape suddenly sped up and turned into a black shadow that pounced toward the skybolt pig. In terms of strength, speed, and agility, the black-backed rod ape was one of the best. It was considered a rare fighting race among the many spirit beasts. It was no wonder that Meng Tong treated it like a treasure and was so confident in it. This monkey's strength was not just for show. In the blink of an eye, the black-backed rod ape had already grabbed the skybolt pig's two chubby front hooves. In front of it, the skybolt pig was only at the full circle of the heaven stage, but it did not even have the chance to struggle. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. From the looks of it, the skybolt pig was going to be torn into half. Tear it apart. Tear it apart. Meng Tong laughed maniacally. He was so proud of himself that he almost went up to the stage to give a demonstration. At this moment, something strange happened. Puff! Blood suddenly splashed onto Skybolt Pig's head. Everyone present, including Meng Jueguang, instantly turned sluggish. Meng Tong also spurted out a mouthful of blood, unable to catch his breath and almost fainted on the spot. The Skybolt Pig was not torn into half. Instead, the ferocious black-backed rod ape inexplicably spurted out blood from all 7 orifices. Before it fell down, the scarlet blood splashed onto half of the stage. The scene was too horrible to look at. Silence. Silence. The entire place was dead silent. Senior, you're a little too ruthless this time. Lin Yi secretly used his divine sense to communicate with the ghost. This time, the tragic ending of the black-backed rod ape was the ghost's doing. Just as everyone had expected, the Skybolt Pig was a non-combat spiritual pet used for treasure hunting. Even if it was at the heaven stage great completion, it would not be a match for the black-backed rod ape no matter how hard it struggled. Therefore, Lin Yi secretly called the ghost to help. Lin Yi initially thought that as an elder of the spiritual beast clan, even if the ghost agreed to help, it would at most scare the black-backed rod ape and would not really kill it. He did not expect that the ghost would directly use its divine sense to shock the black-backed rod ape to death. It was really unexpected. I'm only doing this to free it. Compared to being controlled by this scumbag as a puppet, it's better to die, isn't it? The ghostly thing chuckled indifferently. Similarly, you human cultivators kill each other much more horrifying than this. Naturally, there are wars among the spirit beasts as well. Do you think any random spirit beast is on my side? According to your thinking, you and Meng Tong should shake hands and make peace. Lin Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry when he heard that. In the eyes of a spiritual beast like you, it was a release. But perhaps the black-backed rod ape would rather continue to be Meng Tong's puppet spiritual pet and continue to live like this? At the end of the day, the ghost could not stand these so-called spiritual pets, especially these spiritual pets that were forcibly subdued by people using spiritual pet talismans. In the eyes of a big boss of the spiritual beast clan, these brainwashed spiritual pets were probably the shame of the spiritual beast clan. Their lives were worse than death, so it was better to let them die early to free themselves. Chapter 39-31. The black-back stick ape, who was at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank, was actually unable to defeat a mere skybolt pig, and was even killed in an instant. What kind of strange situation was this? Even if this skybolt pig was at the perfect stage of heaven rank, it was not born to be a combat-type spirit beast, so what was the point of having a higher level? It couldn't be that a higher-level spirit beast could develop other powerful racial talents, right? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have definitely thought that it was nonsense. But now that the truth was in front of them, they had no choice but to believe it. The black-back stick ape was indeed killed by the skybolt pig, and even its owner, Meng Tong, vomited blood and was seriously injured. This couldn't be faked. I've already said that underestimating the enemy is a big taboo. Now that he died with grievances, who can he blame? Lin Yi raised his eyelids indifferently, then looked at the judge and said, "Mr. Judge, why haven't you announced the verdict yet? Is there any doubt?" The judge then came back to his senses, cleared his throat and said in a deep voice, "The black-back stick ape is dead, so the winner of this duel is decided by the skybolt pig." Although they didn't understand how the skybolt pig killed the black-back stick ape, the result was there. The skybolt pig won. This was an indisputable fact. If anyone had any opinions about this, it could only be said that the person was not knowledgeable enough and had not seen the world. The world was big, and there were all kinds of strange things. Who said that the skybolt pig couldn't kill the black-back stick ape? As long as the opportunity was right, there were even precedents of mortals killing cultivators. The battle between the spirit beasts came to an end under the dazed gazes of Meng Jueguang and the others. Without a doubt, Lin Yi had the last laugh. Meng Tong, who had been extremely complacent and arrogant before, had not only lost the black-backed rod ape, but he himself had also suffered a backlash from the death of his spiritual pet. His divine sense had been severely injured, and he would probably be bedridden for at least half a month. When everyone finally came back to their senses, they looked at the skybolt pig again. Their disdain had turned into fear and even fear. The previous 3 rounds of advancement were all luck, so it was reasonable for them to look down on skybolt pig. However, this last round was a true demonstration of his strength. Even the black-backed stick ape was easily defeated. This seemingly stupid and weak skybolt pig was just like his master, Lin Yi. Both of them hid their strength well. Most of the newcomers were at the great perfection of the heaven realm, but they might not be the black-back ape's opponent. Since Skybolt Pig was able to kill the black-backed rod ape in a second, it meant that Skybolt Pig could also kill them in a second. Most importantly, they did not even understand what Skybolt Pig had done. Such terrifying strength was enough to make one shudder in fear. The 5th segment of the newcomer assessment, the spiritual beast assessment, had come to an end. Among all the newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion, the one with the highest score was naturally Lin Yi. This was because he had once again obtained full marks in theory for this segment. The Sky Thunder Pig was a heaven-rank great circle. Therefore, the spiritual beast ranking point was 25 points. The spiritual beast strength point was 40 points for winning 4 rounds in a row, which added up to 65 points. When the first 5 segments were added together, Lin Yi's newcomer assessment points had reached a shocking 281 points, leaving all the other newcomers in the dust. After him was Qiao Hongcai's 181 points. She was in second place. Meng Tong, on the other hand, had 180 points, 1 point behind Xiao Hongcai in third place. As for fourth and fifth place, they were occupied by Xiao Ran and Li Jingming respectively. The title of Clear Cloud Pavilion's top 5 newcomers was not an undeserved reputation. At least among the Clear Cloud Pavilion's newcomers, there was no one who could shake their position. The gap between them and the other newcomers would only grow bigger and bigger, not smaller and smaller. Even Murongzhen, an expert at the peak of the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm, could not make it into the top 5 even with her strength. Although she joined halfway and did not place much importance on points, this result was enough to explain the problem. Although there was still one segment left in the newcomer assessment, the situation was very clear now that things had developed to this point. Putting Murongjin aside, among all the newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion, only these 5 people had the strength to stand out after entering the Blue Cloud Pavilion in the future. Among them, Lin Yi, as the well-deserved number 1 newcomer, would definitely receive the most attention. Although Meng Jueguang was already at the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm, and was about to be promoted to the position of the 3rd Pavilion Master, he was like the sun in the sky in the eyes of the newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion, but even he could not suppress Lin Yi's rise. Now, Lin Yi's name had even spread to the inner circle of the Blue Cloud Pavilion, attracting the attention of many of the higher-ups in the Blue Cloud Pavilion. A newcomer with limitless potential like him, for the weak Blue Cloud Pavilion, was like a treasure that fell from the sky. After all, there was already Zhang Liju before them, and they couldn't help but let their imaginations run wild. Both of them came from the common world, both of them were outstanding in the welcoming pavilion, and there were even rumors that Lin Yi was a refiner just like Zhang Liju. The two of them were too similar, and it made people unconsciously think the same thing. Would Lin Yi become the next Zhang Liju? Back then, Zhang Liju alone was enough to make the weak Blue Cloud Pavilion rise again. At its peak, it was not only on par with the other 2 pavilions, but it was even showing signs of becoming the leader of the 3 great pavilions. This situation only changed after Zhang Liju went to Nakajima, and without a successor, Blue Cloud Pavilion slowly fell back to its current state. If there was another legendary person like Zhang Liju, it would be a great thing for Blue Cloud Pavilion. Of course, Blue Cloud Pavilion wasn't completely united. Some people were happy, while others weren't so happy, when he heard from Ku by Shixiang that he had attracted the attention of the higher-ups in Blue Cloud Pavilion. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Even if Ku by Shixiang didn't say it directly, it wasn't hard for him to guess that there was a reason why he could attract the attention of the higher-ups. There had to be someone helping him in the dark. And this person didn't need to think too much. It had to be the previous 3rd Pavilion Master, Lu Bianren, who had been pushed out of the welcoming pavilion. Lu Bianren's intentions were good. Right now, Lin Yi was being suppressed by Meng Jueguang and Su Lingchong. Their methods were getting more and more aggressive, and it was hard to say when they would take the risk. So, the only way to make Lin Yi's potential was to attract the attention of the higher-ups in advance. Only then would these people be a little afraid, and at least they wouldn't dare to use shameless methods like assassinations. Chapter 39-32. Now that the 2 heart-devouring exquisite grasses in the space of the jade pendant had matured and everything was ready, he could finally start refining the foundation building pill again. Lin Yi had been looking forward to this day for a long time. Since he got the 2 heart-devouring exquisite grasses, more than 3 months had passed. Entering the space of the jade pendant and adjusting his state, Lin Yi checked the 2 heart-devouring exquisite grasses and the other alchemy materials he had prepared in advance. He was already familiar with this process. After a few hours, Lin Yi had the freshly refined foundation building pill in his hands. The quality was the same as always, and there were 3 of them. Originally, the 2 heart-devouring exquisite grasses in Lin Yi's hands belonged to the congenital deficiency of cultivating in batches. No matter how good the quality of the other auxiliary materials was, it was already the limit to make 2 foundation building pills. It was impossible to make one more. The reason why he could make 3 foundation building pills was ultimately because of the heaven-defying effect of the space of the jade pendant. The unique environment completely made up for the damaged vitality caused by the congenital deficiency, which was why there was such a pleasant surprise. Looking at the 3 foundation building pills in his hands, Lin Yi secretly clenched his fists. 3 months of hard work, indeed, did not go to waste. Without any hesitation, Lin Yi directly adjusted his state and began to take the foundation building pill. According to his previous experience, 1 foundation building pill was enough to reach the barrier. Then, he could directly take the foundation building barrier breaking pill, which was enough to guarantee a successful breakthrough. Not only were 3 foundation building pills sufficient, but he could also use 2 more in the future. However, to Lin Yi's surprise, this time, after taking 2 foundation building pills, he still could not reach the barrier. Lin Yi could not help but wonder if the foundation building pill had lost its effect on him. It was not until he took the third foundation building pill that he finally reached the barrier between the peak of the early stage and the middle stage of the foundation building pill. It was a solid barrier that was close to becoming solid. With regards to this result, Lin Yi was speechless and could only choose to silently accept it. No wonder when he was chatting with senior brother Ku Bai and Lu Bianren. It was said that the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment was a hurdle that all cultivators had to face. Many talented cultivators had been doing very well in the past. The halo of genius above their heads was dazzling, and they could even break through to the foundation building realm effortlessly. However, there was a large group of people who were stuck at the peak of the early stage of the foundation building realm. They hadn't made any progress for dozens of years, and their genius had been ground into mediocrity. It was no wonder that Meng Jueguang, the eldest senior brother, did not know Su Lingchong. He hadn't broken through this barrier after such a long time. This was not an isolated case, but a stage that all cultivators had to go through. Being stuck at the peak of the early stage of the foundation establishment realm for decades or even hundreds of years was a very common thing in the world of cultivation. In fact, if one did not have a large amount of cultivation resources or a special opportunity, many of them were still experts at the peak of the early foundation establishment stage until they died. There was a rumor in the streets that the peak of the foundation building realm was a threshold that couldn't be passed. Every time one passed a threshold, it was equivalent to a carp leaping through the dragon's gate. After one was reborn, one's strength would surely obtain explosive growth. From the peak of the early stage of the foundation establishment realm to the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. Most people needed decades or even hundreds of years to be able to cross this threshold. It was no wonder that Lin Yi had consumed 3 supreme-grade foundation building pills to barely touch the barrier. And this even included the results of Lin Yi's hard work in the past few months. However, although the supreme-grade foundation building pills were very precious, they were able to make up for the years of bitter cultivation of others who didn't consume pills. This was definitely worth it. One must know that the process of consuming 3 supreme-grade foundation building pills consecutively was a process that even with Lin Yi's mental fortitude, it was as if he was gambling on a card table. Fortunately, the final result was still satisfactory and didn't disappoint. After consuming the supreme-grade foundation building barrier-breaking pill, Lin Yi's next step was to break through to the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm in one go. While Lin Yi was concentrating on his breakthrough in seclusion, his opponents were not idle. Among them, the one who made the biggest move was Meng Tong. This was because Meng Jueguang had finally decided to let him take the meridian heart-shattering pill that he had prepared beforehand. Because the black-backed rod ape had been killed in seconds, Meng Tong was currently suffering from the backlash of his divine sense. It was not suitable for him to take such a domineering pill like the meridian heart-shattering pill. Meng Jueguang was also well aware of this, but he had no other choice. He was running out of time. The last round of the assessment was set to take place in 10 days. According to the rules announced in advance, this was the decisive round that could truly determine the outcome. For all the newcomers who participated in the assessment, success or failure would depend on this move. With Meng Tong's current strength in the early stage of the foundation establishment realm, it was obvious that he was no match for Lin Yi. Even Murongzhen, who was at the peak of the early stage of the foundation establishment realm, would not be able to do anything to Lin Yi. As mentioned before, with Lu Bianren's secret operation, the few higher-ups of the Blue Cloud Pavilion had now begun to pay attention to Lin Yi's brilliance. Although Meng Jueguang was proud of his success, he was already feeling a lot of pressure. If he did not think of a way to suppress Lin Yi as soon as possible, not only would it be difficult to explain to Su Lingchong, but it would also be extremely difficult for Meng Jueguang to suppress Lin Yi in the future. As the 3rd pavilion master, he could not suppress a newcomer. That was not all. What he was most afraid of was that when he became the 3rd pavilion master, Lin Yi would become the senior brother in charge. No matter who he forced to become the senior brother, it would have nothing to do with him as the 3rd pavilion master. If his 2 subordinates did not listen to him, he would be even more miserable than Lu Bianren. Therefore, in Meng Jueguang's opinion, the final round of the assessment was his last chance. Under the pressure, he could only place all his bets on Meng Tong. In fact, if he was not forced to do so, Meng Jueguang did not plan to do so. After all, it would be too cruel to the ignorant Meng Tong. Moreover, after so many things, he had already seen through Meng Tong. This guy was unable to accomplish anything and was good at spoiling things. He was not someone who could be entrusted with important matters. In comparison, the other two subordinates he had, Murongzhen and Li Jingming, were much more reliable than Meng Tong. Unfortunately, even though Murongzhen was willing to sleep with him, she did not have the right position. She was only willing to be his ally, not his subordinate. Meng Jueguang was using her, but at the same time, he had to keep his guard up. He could not completely trust her. Chapter 39-33. Up until now, Meng Jueguang still hadn't discovered that Li Jingming had already succeeded in breaking through to the foundation establishment stage. It could be seen how good Li Jingming was at hiding his strength. His ability to hide his strength was almost on par with his big brother Lin Yi. Therefore, even if he knew that it was unreliable, Meng Jueguang could only bite the bullet and put all his chips on Meng Tong. As long as this guy could be reliable at the critical moment, the ancestors of the Meng family would burn incense. There were only 10 days left until the final assessment. Meng Jueguang couldn't wait for Meng Tong to fully recover, so he could only bite the bullet and trick Meng Tong. This was very risky, but he had no other choice. Looking at the blood-red pill in Meng Jueguang's hand, Meng Tong couldn't help but drool. Ever since he knew about the Meridian heart-shattering pill, he had been waiting for this day for too long. Unfortunately, Meng Jueguang had always asked him to hold it in. Today, he could finally get what he wanted. However, Meng Jueguang didn't give it to him so easily. Instead, he asked, "Meng Tong, how have I treated you during this time?" Meng Tong was stunned, and then he hurriedly flattered, "Very good. Ninth cousin, you have treated me with great kindness. If you have any orders, I will not hesitate to sacrifice my life." "That's good. No matter what happens in the future, you just have to remember one thing. We are both grasshoppers on the same line. No matter what I do, I will do it for you. I will never cheat or harm you. You must keep this in mind, understand?" Meng Jueguang said with deep meaning. "Of course, how can I not know how ninth cousin Tong treats me? Ninth cousin Tong, you can rest assured that I, Meng Tong, am not that kind of ungrateful guy." Meng Tong didn't understand, so he continued to pat his chest and promised. He thought that Meng Jueguang was afraid that he would turn his back on him after taking the Meridian heart-shattering pill and become stronger. Meng Jueguang nodded in satisfaction before handing the Meridian heart-shattering pill to Meng Tong. He paused and said, "You've heard about the effects of this pill from young Master Su. With your current strength in the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, advancing to the peak of the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm is a sure thing. There is no doubt about this. However, everything has its pros and cons. As the saying goes, medicine is 30% poisonous. You should know what a powerful medicinal effect represents." I know what to do." Meng Tong nodded repeatedly. In fact, he didn't even know a fart. He didn't understand the deeper meaning of Meng Jueguang's words at all. He just wanted to take the Meridian heart-shattering pill as soon as possible to improve his strength. "If that's the case, then I won't say anything more. There's no time to lose. You should take this Meridian heart-shattering pill as soon as possible after you adjust it a little." Meng Jueguang narrowed his eyes. Meng Jueguang deliberately didn't point it out. After all, no matter how stupid Meng Tong was, if he knew the side effects of the Meridian heart-shattering pill, he probably wouldn't dare to take it again. He probably wouldn't dare to use it again. This was something that could ruin his entire life. Which normal person would dare to use his entire life as a bargaining chip? Anyway, Meng Jueguang had already said so much in advance, and he had done his duty. As for Meng Tong's failure to understand the deeper meaning of these words, He could only blame his own stupidity, not Meng Jiuguang's head. Yes, yes. Take care, ninth cousin. Meng Tong couldn't wait to start. Although Meng Jiuguang had told him several times in recent months, he didn't take it seriously. The meridian heart-shattering pill's effect was overbearing, and he had to be fully prepared before taking it. However, he didn't take it to heart. Anyway, as long as he could directly advance one level, everything else was fleeting. Meng Jiuguang nodded. When he walked to the door, he suddenly stopped and turned back. Meng Tong, when you take the meridian heart-shattering pill later, the process will be very painful. If you can't endure it, you'll be finished. This is not an alarmist talk. It was rare to see Meng Jiuguang so serious. Although Meng Tong was impatient, he still heard something between the lines. He asked cautiously, "What should I do?" No matter how arrogant he was, Meng Tong could at least clearly recognize that willpower was never his strong point. If what Meng Jiuguang said was true, he might not be able to bear it. If you really can't endure it, you only need to remember that hatred can make people endure all kinds of pain and suffering. You only need to know who is the enemy you want to kill the most, and put all the pain on him. You must survive and return it to him 100 times or 1,000 times in the future. That's enough. Meng Jiuguang left these words and turned to leave. Hatred? Meng Tong listened thoughtfully, and then a trace of ferocity flashed in his eyes. Who is the enemy I want to kill the most? Of course, it's that bastard Lin Yi. Speaking of enemies, Meng Tong had always been arrogant, so he had many enemies. When he was in his hometown, he was a local tyrant and had many conflicts with people. However, ever since he came to the Welcome Pavilion, he had been completely separated from the outside world. Under Meng Jiuguang's care, most newcomers would only dare to be angry with him, but not dare to say anything. Even if Li Jingming was oppressed by him in every possible way, he would never make a sound. There was only one enemy left, and that was naturally Lin Yi. After all, wasn't the fundamental purpose of taking the meridian heart-shattering pill to defeat Lin Yi, the pretentious leader? Chapter 39-34. This was the first time in history that Meng Tong's cave dwelling had such a penetrating howl. It was no wonder that everyone was so surprised. What kind of pain did he have to suffer for him to howl in such an earth-shattering manner? What the hell is Meng Tong doing? Could it be that Meng Jiuguang is torturing him inside? He's screaming so miserably, this is too abnormal. Xiao Hongkai ridiculed, taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. Xiao Ran speculated with a face full of doubt, could it be that he's practicing some strange evil martial arts? From what I know, only a few external martial arts techniques would suffer such devastation. But Meng Tong isn't an external martial arts expert, right? Lin Yi smiled faintly and said thoughtfully, he probably ate something that he can't digest. It doesn't matter, if he wants to scream then let him scream. Lin Yi could more or less guess what Meng Tong was doing now. After all, he had Li Jingming as a spy. Moreover, during the month he was at the back mountain outskirts, he had already heard about the existence of the meridian heart-shattering pill from Shanghai Laner, so it wasn't hard to connect the dots. If it was someone else, they would more or less be a little anxious at this time. The more evil a power was, the more likely it was to become stronger in a short period of time. This kind of thing was not uncommon in the cultivation world, but unfortunately, Lin Yi didn't care about it at all. It didn't matter if Meng Tong became stronger or crippled, Lin Yi didn't care. He only cared about one thing at the moment, and that was to stabilize his foundation establishment mid-stage as soon as possible. He needed to fully grasp his newfound strength. Other than that, everything else didn't matter. 10 days later, all the newcomers gathered in the Welcome Pavilion to prepare for the last round of the newcomer assessment. It was also the most important round that determined their future. Usually, in these kinds of occasions, Meng Tong, who had always been arrogant, would often appear early and let a large group of Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers surround him. They would talk loudly, as if they were afraid that they wouldn't be the focus of the audience. But this time, as soon as Meng Tong appeared, he didn't need to say anything at all. Naturally, he had already attracted the attention of everyone present. Damn! What's wrong with this guy? Why is his hair all dyed white? Xiao Hongkai looked at Meng Tong blankly. He couldn't help but rub his eyes. This hair doesn't seem to be dyed. It should be natural white. It can't be the legendary white hair overnight, right? Xiao Ran also had a face of disbelief. Lin Yi shook his head slightly and said, the hair is not the main point. Didn't you guys notice that his entire temperament has changed? Only then did Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai realize what Lin Yi was talking about. Even the bitter senior was surprised. Junior Lin's right, Meng Tong used to give people the impression that he was a complete idiot, without any strength or depth. But now that I look at him, his entire person is different. He is so strange and twisted like a wounded beast. If you provoke him a little, he will immediately come back for revenge. Lin Yi's expression was indifferent. But in his heart, he thought, what kind of strange pill is this meridian heart-shattering pill? In just a short 10 days, it actually made Meng Tong completely change into a different person. If it was just a simple rebirth of strength, it would be fine. After all, the foundation-building pill could have the same effect. But this meridian heart-shattering pill, it actually made a person's temperament change. It was simply incredible. In the past 10 days, the fourth immortal's cave at the foot of the mountain continuously emitted horrifying howls. Meng Tong was almost suffering inhuman torture at every moment, especially during the period between midnight and noon. The miserable howls were so heart-wrenching that it made one's scalp go numb. It was no wonder that in just a short 10 days, his entire person would be twisted into such a strange and evil person. Under the shocked gazes of everyone, Meng Tong slowly walked in front of Lin Yi. His eyes were full of ferocious blood vessels. He laughed coldly and said, I've waited for this day. Lin Yi, everything I have now is thanks to you. Are you ready to die? After saying that, Meng Tong did not care about Lin Yi's reaction. He turned around and walked to the side. It seemed that in his eyes, Lin Yi was already a dead man. There was no need to pay attention to him anymore. Interesting. Lin Yi smiled playfully. Before this, Meng Tong had always called him pretentious leader and never called him by his full name. Although this was only a very subtle difference, in the eyes of a person like Lin Yi, it was enough to explain the problem. Meng Tong had never called Lin Yi by his full name before. In the end, it was a kind of psychological distortion. At least it showed that he could not face Lin Yi's existence. He could only use these mocking and insulting words to get his psychological balance. At that time, no matter how strong Meng Tong was or how much confidence he was actually just a wolf in sheep's clothing. But now, judging from his tone, Meng Tong was not as arrogant as before. However, it was the first time that Lin Yi felt threatened by him. If he was not careful, it could be a fatal threat. Junior brother Lin, there must be something wrong when something is out of the ordinary. Even if you are facing a defeated opponent like Meng Tong, you must not let your guard down. Senior brother Ku reminded him. He did not know about the meridian heart-shattering pill, but he could see that Meng Tong's strength had skyrocketed. It was no longer the same as before. Senior brother Ku, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Lin Yi nodded. A moment later, the pavilion master of the welcome pavilion, Hu Yunfeng, went on stage and announced to all the newcomers, in the pugilistic world, it is inevitable to bump into each other. Everyone has an enemy, and there will definitely be friction between you newcomers. According to the rules of the cultivation world, strength is always the most important. Our welcome pavilion is naturally no exception. So today's last round of the newcomer assessment is specially prepared for all of you to adjust to your conflicts. The newcomers started discussing when they heard this. Even if the newcomer assessment was ignored, the welcome pavilion was usually free to arrange battles as long as there was a witness present and they reported it to their respective senior brothers. There was no need to specially set up a so-called newcomer assessment for this, right? Obviously, the battle round that Hu Yunfeng mentioned was not as simple as everyone thought it was. This was a round that could have a decisive effect on the entire assessment series. The success or failure of this round would directly determine whether all the previous efforts would be in vain, or if they could catch up and successfully counterattack. Chapter 39-35. The moment Hu Yunfeng said that, there was an uproar as everyone looked at each other. The winner could snatch all the points of the loser. This rule was more than cruel. The person who came up with this rule was simply a devil. To the rookies these days, points were their lifeline. It directly determined their future. Snatching their points was no different from snatching their lives. They would definitely fight to the death with you. However, this cruel rule made the eyes of some rookies light up. This was the best opportunity to make a comeback. At least this rule suited Meng Tong's taste. It just so happened that he had consumed the Meridian heart-shattering pill. His strength had increased greatly, so he had the confidence to fight against Lin Yi. As Meng Tong was secretly calculating, Hu Yunfeng's following words made his eyelids twitch. Of course, it's not that you have to fight in this round. If any rookie is challenged, they can choose to refuse. However, the price is to hand over 50 points to the opponent. It's fair and reasonable. 50 points was an astronomical figure to other rookies. However, for a freak like Lin Yi who could easily obtain full points, it was a drop in the bucket. Not to mention 50 points, even 100 points was nothing to him. However, this way, for Meng Tong, who was bent on stepping on Lin Yi's corpse to advance, it was not good news. What if Lin Yi sensed that something was amiss and took the initiative to admit defeat? Although Lin Yi had always been posturing, at his level of strength, his intuition towards danger was definitely very sharp. It was unlikely that he would continue to throw his life away despite knowing that he would die. Even if Meng Tong's personality had changed drastically, he was still as arrogant and confident as ever. I hope this fellow can continue posturing. Otherwise, how can I live up to the heart-shattering pain I've endured all these days? Meng Tong looked coldly at Lin Yi. Moments later, the rules were all explained. The rookies of the three pavilions began their battles. And before everyone began their final battle, the first thing to do was to draw lots. This segment was too crucial and fatal for the rookies, so it was necessary to ensure fairness. Drawing lots was to let the rookies decide the order of the challenges. After all, according to the rules, every rookie only had one chance to challenge and one chance to be challenged. If they did not use such a method to determine the order, it would be easy for many people to rush to challenge the same person. Everyone knew that one had to pick on the weakest persimmon. The purpose of drawing lots was to solve this problem. Whoever drew a bigger number would have the right to issue a challenge first. This time, the first person to issue a challenge to Blue Cloud Pavilion turned out to be Meng Tong. He did not know if Meng Jueguang had purposely gone easy on him. Seeing the white-haired Meng Tong slowly walk up the stage with an unfamiliar and powerful aura, the rookies could not help but shrink their necks. Previously, Meng Tong was no longer a weakling. Now, he was so inexplicably powerful that it made people shudder. If anyone were to be called out by him, their legs would really tremble and they would have a heart attack. Fortunately, Meng Tong had already determined his target. He pointed at Lin Yi, who was below the stage, and hooked his finger. You know who I'm talking about. Come on up if you're not afraid of death. Lin Yi smiled nonchalantly and didn't say anything else as he walked up the stage with a relaxed expression on his face. Not admitting defeat? Now kneel before me. You can still keep your worthless life. Meng Tong looked at him and raised his eyebrows. At the same time, he unreservedly revealed his aura. The crowd below the stage turned pale with fright. Even Murongzhen, an expert at the peak of the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm, could not help but change her expression. She could tell from Meng Tong's aura that Meng Tong's strength had completely surpassed hers. He should be between the peak of the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm and the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. It was even possible that he had the strength of the strongest person below the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. Admit defeat? Lin Yi shrugged and smiled faintly. Why would I admit defeat? You can't be thinking that you can defeat me with that little strength of yours, right? Pretentious. Since you don't want to admit defeat, that's for the best. I'll finish you off today and end all troubles. Meng Tong scoffed. Although the strength that Lin Yi had displayed was frighteningly powerful, with Meng Tong's current confidence, he did not care about his opponent at all. Then let's fight and see. Lin Yi shook his head calmly. Meng Tong did not waste any more words. Suddenly, a terrifying force exploded from beneath his feet. He stomped on the rock ring and shot towards his opponent like an arrow. Below the arena, Meng Jueguang was extremely gratified when he saw this, whereas, senior brother Ku Bai, Xiao Ran, and Xiao Hongkai frowned in their hearts. Exactly what sort of strange fortuitous encounter did this fellow Meng Tong obtain? His strength was actually able to rise explosively to such an extent in a short period of time. At that very moment, Meng Tong's powerful aura was too much for the audience to handle. Some of the weaker newcomers unknowingly took a few steps back, not daring to look at him directly. However, Lin Yi did not care at all. Facing Meng Tong, who was charging at him, he casually extended his palm and gently swatted him as if he was swatting a fly. Then, Meng Tong was slapped to the ground and could not get up for a long time. Huh! Everyone was dumbfounded. The powerful Meng Tong was slapped to the ground just like that? This scene was unexpected. In the past few months in the Welcome Pavilion, Lin Yi's strength had been deeply rooted in everyone's hearts. No one would foolishly look down on him anymore. But at the same time, they had witnessed Meng Tong's experience over the past few days and his current condition. Today, Meng Tong could be said to have been reborn. Even when Murongjin faced him, he couldn't help but shudder. How could such a person be a weakling? To everyone, even if Meng Tong's strength wasn't above Lin Yi's, it was definitely on par with him. It was impossible for him to be much weaker. They did not expect that the first fight would be like this. Indeed, Meng Tong had displayed unprecedented strength, and people couldn't help but be afraid of him. They even began to imagine that Lin Yi was finally going to die this time. However, all of this was nothing in front of Lin Yi. The powerful Meng Tong in their eyes was like a fly. He was easily slapped to the ground. This scene shocked everyone. They were speechless for a long time. Finally, Meng Tong slowly crawled up from the ground. He spat a mouthful of bloody saliva at Lin Yi's feet and cursed. Then, he swept his leg at Lin Yi. Chapter 39-36. Everyone was dumbfounded. The first time could be attributed to luck or Meng Tong's underestimation of his opponent. But the second time, what was this? Wah-ya-ya-ya-ya. Meng Tong was stunned by the slap himself. He shook his head in disbelief and climbed up from the ground again. His bloodshot eyes were now bloodshot. The side effect of the Meridian heart-shattering pill was not only to make people suffer from the pain of having their hearts broken at noon and midnight, but those with weak willpower would also be tortured to the point of losing their minds and even become a complete lunatic. Meng Tong had never been a person with strong willpower. Otherwise, he wouldn't have undergone such a drastic change in temperament in just 10 days and become such a strange person. His eyes were bloodshot. It was a sign that he had completely lost his mind and was about to go berserk. Seeing that Meng Tong was once again charging at him aggressively, Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. He curled his lips and said, "Don't eat unclean things. You've really set a good example for everyone." Then, without waiting for his opponent to attack, he raised his hand and slapped Meng Tong to the ground. Watching this scene, the audience was silent. They had been shocked to the point of numbness. At this moment, there was only one sound left, Meng Tong's heavy breathing. Die, for me. Meng Tong was like a beast. His limbs were on the ground and he was panting heavily. He gritted his teeth and said word by word. Along with his voice, the hard stone slabs under his feet cracked. It felt as if they couldn't support Meng Tong's weight at all. The crazy and monstrous aura that gathered on his body made everyone's eyelids twitch. Did this guy really lose his mind and go berserk? However, Lin Yi turned a blind eye to this. He was still as calm as the clouds and the wind, looking at Meng Tong indifferently, watching this fellow's every move. From the first day he arrived at Heaven's Stage Island, he had never regarded Meng Tong as his opponent. He wasn't before, and he still wasn't even after Meng Tong took the Meridian heart-shattering pill. Although Meng Tong was gradually losing his mind, he could still detect a trace of deeply hidden contempt from Lin Yi's indifferent expression. Perhaps this was not intentional on Lin Yi's part, but a natural contempt of the strong towards the weak. The greatest contempt was not all kinds of contempt and mockery, but just plain disregard. Ha 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 ha. Meng Tong suddenly laughed hysterically. He stared at Lin Yi with a ferocious face and shouted, "How dare you look down on me? How dare you look down on me? Do you know how to write the word death, pretentious old man? Of course, I went to school properly. Don't you know that? Do you need me to teach you, but the price may be a little high." Lin Yi teased, not putting the other party in his eyes at all. "You're courting death." Meng Tong suddenly exploded with anger. He exerted force with his 1,000 legs, and the broken stone slabs under his feet instantly exploded, splashing onto the ground. The people below the stage were in a mess, and they couldn't dodge in time. So fierce, but unfortunately. Lin Yi's eyes narrowed, and his whole body suddenly condensed a blazing fist intent that was close to materialization. He blasted out the 24 styles of frenzied fist, accompanied by an indifferent smile. "It's far from enough to deal with me." Boom! There was a loud bang, and in the sky full of dust, a figure was sent flying like a cannonball, and fell to the ground several tens of feet away. It was unknown whether the figure was dead or alive. It was Meng Tong, who was beaten beyond recognition. When the dust slowly settled, everyone, including Meng Jiuguang, could not help but gasp when they saw the scene in front of them. The Clear Cloud Pavilion's new disciple battle stage, which had experienced countless battles, had been perfected to this day, but at this moment, it was destroyed beyond recognition. Just one move of the 24 styles of the Mad Flame Fist had turned half of the battle stage into rubble. The only place that was left intact was the area under Lin Yi's feet. Everyone was really shocked by this scene. The power of one punch was so great. One had to know that the stage was protected by a special protective array, and its defense was much stronger than other places. It was extremely difficult for a normal newcomer to leave a mark on the stage, not to mention destroying it. This was the first time that a newcomer had destroyed the stage. Today's scene could already be recorded in the history of Welcome Pavilion. Challenge me? You're just taking a crooked path. Where does your confidence come from? Lin Yi did not look at the reckless Meng Tong, but coldly glanced at Meng Jiuguang, who was below the stage. Under his gaze, Meng Jiuguang, the senior disciple in charge, was actually oppressed by a mere newcomer to the point that his scalp went numb, and he did not dare to look him in the eye. Today, Meng Jiuguang was already a mid-stage foundation establishment expert, but the pressure that Lin Yi brought him at this moment made him have the urge to break into a run. Just thinking about it made people feel incredulous. Could it be that this guy is already a mid-stage foundation establishment expert? If that's the case, then it makes sense that Meng Tong is not his opponent. But, how is this possible? Looking at Lin Yi walking down the stage so casually, Meng Jiuguang was shocked by this thought that popped up in his mind. No matter how he thought about it, Lin Yi was just a newcomer reaching the mid-stage of foundation establishment. This was too exaggerated. One had to know that even the legendary miracle Dr. Zhang Liju didn't reach such a frightening level back in the day. Not to mention the newcomers in the Clear Cloud Pavilion, even looking at all the newcomers in the Welcoming Pavilion, there were only two who could reach the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment. One was Murong Zhen, who joined midway, and the other was Meng Tong, who was beaten to a pulp by Lin Yi. Murongzhen, needless to say, was already at the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment before he came to the three great pavilions. As for Meng Tong, if there wasn't a monster like Lin Yi to compare, he could be considered a legendary newcomer in Welcome Pavilion. After all, in just a few short months, he went from sky full cycle all the way to the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment. If he didn't use the Meridian heart-shattering pill, this speed was already frightening enough. 99% of the newcomers couldn't even catch up. Unfortunately, his opponent was Lin Yi. As the saying goes, if there was a Yu, why would there be a Liang? Plus, Meng Tong didn't seem to be at Zhou Yu's level. Even Meng Tong and Murongzhen, two early-stage foundation establishment masters, were overshadowed in front of Lin Yi. As for the other newcomers, naturally, they were like floating clouds. All of a sudden, everyone looked at Lin Yi with deep respect in their eyes. Chapter 39-37. Not to mention the others, even Meng Jiuguang himself felt a little guilty when facing Lin Yi, let alone these newcomers who were merely at the heaven stage great perfection. Murongzhen looked at Lin Yi with a hint of splendor in his eyes, but there was also a hint of deep jealousy. Why did you go against Lin Yi, and Lin Yi still protected you? And this beauty took the initiative to throw herself into his arms, and Lin Yi was still not interested? Shangguan Laner, just you wait, I will definitely make Lin Yi kneel before me. I will join hands with him and make you wish you were dead. Junior brother Lin, this time, you have completely locked in the first place. Congratulations, senior brother Ku Bai said sincerely for Lin Yi. According to the rules, the winner would get all of the losers' points. Lin Yi had 280 points to begin with, and with Meng Tong's 180, he had a total of 461 points. It was a shocking result. Not to mention the other newcomers in Blue Cloud Pavilion, even if all of their points were added together, they might not be as many as Lin Yi. They were not on the same level at all. Points are secondary, but I was a little careless this time. I made a mistake, Lin Yi said regretfully as he looked at Meng Tong from afar. According to his original plan, he was going to directly kill Meng Tong this time to avoid any future troubles. After all, the current Meng Tong was a completely different person from the original Meng Tong. He could ignore the previous idiot Meng Tong, but now he had to be on guard against this one. In Lin Yi's expectations, the 24 forms of Frenzy Fist was already enough to instantly kill a peak early-stage foundation establishment expert. However, Meng Tong had eaten the Meridian heart-shattering pill, so he was somewhat different from a peak early-stage foundation establishment expert who advanced normally. It was hard to say whether he could kill him this time. Unfortunately, the battle was already over, and it was too late for Lin Yi to add another blow. If he had known earlier, he would have spared no effort and directly used the 23rd style of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm. In my opinion. Junior brother Lin, you don't have to be disappointed. He's in such a miserable state. Whether or not Meng Tong can come back to life is still unknown. It's up to the will of the heavens. The bitter senior brother consoled. Yes, that's all we can do for now. Lin Yi nodded. In any case, his strength was enough to suppress his opponent. Even Meng Jiuguang couldn't possibly be his opponent. Even if Meng Tong was a little strange, there was no need to be too afraid. At this moment, everyone else was still shocked by the battle between Lin Yi and Meng Tong. They were so shocked that they couldn't recover for a long time. From the first day, there had been constant friction between Lin Yi and Meng Tong. The scene of Lin Yi defeating Meng Tong in one move was still fresh in the minds of the newcomers. After that, Meng Tong had been scheming to get back at him, but he could only watch the gap between them grow bigger and bigger. It even evolved to the point that even a subordinate of Lin Yi like Xiao Hongkai could directly suppress him. Now that he had finally consumed the heart-shattering pill, he thought that he could make a comeback. However, he never expected that he would end up in such an awkward situation. Even though it was unknown if Meng Tong was dead or alive, the rookies could not help but feel their hearts break for him. After this battle, as the arena had been destroyed by Lin Yi, the Blue Cloud Pavilion rookies could only move elsewhere. They found an empty space and continued the final battle between the rookies, with the battle between Lin Yi and Meng Tong before them. The other battles between the Blue Cloud Pavilion rookies clearly didn't have such a scalp-tingling feeling. Although it could be said that they were betting their lives, everyone fought with all their might. There were many battles to the death that resulted in both sides being heavily injured. The scene could be said to be intense, but due to the limitations of their strength, that was all they could do. What was worth mentioning was that Lin Yi had appeared once again and challenged Murongzhen. Previously, it was Meng Tong who had taken the initiative to challenge him. As for Lin Yi, he still had one more chance to challenge someone else. Lin Yi did this not only for his own group, but also for Shanghai Laner. If Murongzhen chose to accept the challenge, Lin Yi could take the opportunity to eliminate her completely. After experiencing the incident at Half Moon Lake, his impression of Murongzhen was extremely bad. If he really had the opportunity, he would not show mercy to the fairer sex. Beating her to death was the way to go. Unfortunately, Murongzhen chose to admit defeat very sensibly. 50 points were not important to her. Furthermore, Lin Yi's strength was already deeply rooted in everyone's hearts. For a woman like her who was good at forbearance, there was no way she would give Lin Yi the opportunity to take advantage of her. After that, Murongzhen followed up with an eye for an eye. She challenged Xiao Ran by name. Even though she was not Lin Yi's opponent right now, she could still get back at him by defeating his lackey. Lin Yi could do nothing about this. It was true that he was powerful, but he could not replace Xiao Ran. Moreover, Xiao Ran was clearly not Murongzhen's opponent at the early stage of the foundational realm. Without a choice, Xiao Ran could only follow Murongzhen's example. He chose to hand over 50 points and admit defeat. The all-important final round of the newcomer assessment had finally come to an end. The final result was obvious. Lin Yi won first place without any suspense, Xiao Hongkai was second, and Li Jingming was third. According to the news announced by the pavilion leader, Hu Yunfeng, the points of this newcomer assessment were not only related to the treatment and status one would receive after entering the 3 pavilions in the future, but the winner would also receive a great reward. The top 3 from each of the 3 pavilions would receive a medicinal pill as a reward. They could choose between the foundation building pill and the foundation barrier breaking pill. Lin Yi and the other 2 were already experts at the early stage of the foundational realm. Without a doubt, they all chose the foundation barrier breaking pill. As soon as the medicinal pill was handed to him, Lin Yi immediately gave it to Xiao Ran. After all, Lin Yi had just broken through to the middle stage of the foundational realm with 3 foundation building pills and a foundation barrier breaking pill. He would not need this medicinal pill for the time being. Even if he did need it, he could refine it himself. This foundation barrier breaking pill was even more important to Xiao Ran. With his strength and talent in cultivation, he might be able to surprise Lin Yi someday and become an expert at the peak of the early stage of the foundational realm. After several months and 6 rounds, the highly anticipated newcomer assessment finally came to an end. The final result could be said to be some happy and some sad. Looking at the Blue Cloud Pavilion's newcomers, Lin Yi's group was undoubtedly the biggest winner who had the last laugh. After the newcomer assessment, the newcomer pavilion's newcomers could finally relax. They could finally relax after such a long time. Those who needed to rest rested and those who needed to cultivate cultivated. Everyone had their own plans. Chapter 39-38. During this time, there was a piece of news that caught Lin Yi's attention. It came from Li Jingming, and it was about Meng Tong. After the newcomer assessment ended, Meng Jueguang searched for many healing medicines, wanting to save Meng Tong. However, none of them were effective. Some of the medicines even had the opposite effect, almost causing Meng Tong to die on the spot. However, just as Meng Jueguang was helpless and could only watch Meng Tong die, Meng Tong, after suffering in endless pain for a few days, relied on his own will to survive, and turned back from the edge of death. Now, Meng Tong's injuries had gradually stabilized. Although it was not possible to recover in a short period of time, it was only a matter of time. He really is an unkillable cockroach. After reading the report, Lin Yi could not help but frown. He had a bad feeling. After this incident, Meng Tong, who was originally a small character, seemed to gradually grow into a big threat. It was like opening Pandora's box. The Meridian Heartbreaker pill seemed to have created another Meng Tong, a more troublesome Meng Tong. In time, this guy might grow into a big character, and it would be difficult to deal with him. However, since things had come to this, Lin Yi did not have any good ideas to kill this threat in the bud. He had the strength, but he did not have the opportunity to make a move. This made Lin Yi experience the helplessness of Meng Jueguang and the others. He could not order Li Jingming to secretly assassinate Meng Tong. Regardless of whether Li Jingming was willing or not, even if he really wanted to do it, it would be difficult to do it under the eyes of Meng Jueguang. If he showed any flaws, he would be finished. Other than this report, after cultivating for a few days, when his realm was almost stable, Lin Yi finally decided to go to the market. During the month he was in the back mountain, he collected a lot of treasures. Along the way, he also killed some high-level spirit beasts that wanted to kill him. The corpses of spirit beasts were different from treasures like spirit medicines. Many things needed to be processed by professionals before they could be useful. Therefore, it was useless for Lin Yi to keep them on him. It was better to trade them in the market. Now, Lin Yi needed to start preparing for his next breakthrough. However, after wandering around the back mountain for a month, he still could not find the heart-devouring exquisite grass. This result made Lin Yi feel depressed, but it also made him realize that it wasn't practical for him to search for something as rare as the heart-devourer grass on his own. After all, there was a limit to how much he could search for it on his own. It wasn't an easy task to search for it in the vast back mountains by himself. Hence, he was prepared to make another trip to the Hong Chamber of Commerce this time. If Hong Zhong was willing to help him purchase it, with his connections and influence as a big shot in the Chamber of Commerce, even if he wasn't 100% confident, it was still better than Lin Yi doing it himself. Other than that, for the past 2 months, the Southern Sky Gate and Yuzhe had stopped pursuing Second Lin for some reason. Therefore, there was not much risk for Lin Yi to go to the market this time. After making up his mind, Second Lin, who had been silent for a long time, returned to the streets outside the market. His goal was clear. He was going to find Shen Heihu, who specialized in the spirit beast business. Although Lin Yi had only met Shen Heihu once, he had a good impression of him. This wasn't to say that Shen Heihu was a good person. In fact, no one who could make it big in a place like the market was a good person. It was just that this Shen Heihu was a smart person who knew when to advance and when to retreat, and he was generous as well. Working with someone like this was more to Lin Yi's taste. Yo, Lin brothers, long time no see. Although they had only met once, Chen Heihu still recognized Lin Yi at first glance. He greeted him with a smile. Lin Yi was slightly taken aback, then he responded with a smile, "Brother Chen Heihu, how have you been?" Chen Heihu looked at the bag behind Lin Yi and immediately nodded in understanding. "Lin brothers, you have to take care of my business again. Every time I see you, there are good things. You are a rare distinguished guest, a kind guest." Lin Yi was not ambiguous and said directly, "This bag is filled with the corpses of some spirit beasts. Brother Chen, take a look and give me an estimate." "Okay, Lin brothers, don't worry. You know me. The price will definitely satisfy you." Chen Heihu immediately called his manservant and began to get busy. However, he himself pulled Lin Yi aside and whispered, "Lin brothers, someone has been looking for you in the market a while ago. It seems that their background is not small. You have to be careful." Lin Yi nodded and said, "Thank you for the reminder, I am very grateful." "Hey, what are you thanking me for? Do you have to be grateful for a reminder between friends? You are treating me like an outsider." Chen Heihu laughed heartily and said, "Recently, those people have been coming less often, but sometimes they still come out to patrol. Lin brothers, as long as you pay a little attention, it should not be a big problem. I know what to do. Thank you, Brother Chen. Lin Yi responded. Although he knew about this a long time ago, he still had to appreciate the other party's kindness. Otherwise, if it was someone more opportunistic, not to mention reminding him, he would probably secretly find someone to inform the Southern Sky Gate and Yuzha. After all, no matter what, there must be a great reward for providing information. Who would go against a spiritual jade these days? Chen Heihu waved his hand indifferently, and then he said, "Oh, right, there's another matter. That fellow, the tattered king, seems to be looking for you as well. I'm just telling Brother Lin about this. Actually, it's right for you to ignore this fellow who only knows how to boast but can't produce any results." Lin Yi couldn't help sweating when he heard this. It had been a few months since he promised to go to the Blue Cloud Pavilion to look for the Raggedy King to forge weapons. Now that it had been a few months, he had completely forgotten about the matter. Speaking of which, he felt a little sorry for the Raggedy King. Although Lin Yi was really busy during this period, he had to prepare for the newcomer assessment and prepare to refine pills to improve his strength. Moreover, when he told the Raggedy King that he would look for him after a while, a few months had passed in the blink of an eye. During this period of time, he had given the Raggedy King the cold shoulder. "This is my mistake. In a few days, I will go to the Blue Cloud Pavilion to look for him," Lin Yi replied. Chapter 39-39. While they were talking, several manservants had finished counting the things brought by Lin Yi. After making a list, Chen Heihu quickly gave Lin Yi a fair price of 800 spiritual jade. Lin Yi didn't have any objections to this and immediately nodded in agreement. However, what surprised him was that Chen Heihu could actually swipe a spirit jade card here. Looking at the outer and middle streets of the market, he was the only one who could do this. Spiritual jade card was a rare high-end item. Even a master at the peak of the late stage of the foundation establishment realm like Nan Tianyong couldn't get it, which showed how rare it was. As for the merchants, there were even fewer who had the qualification to swipe the spiritual jade card. On the North Island, except for the giants of the business alliance like the Hong Chamber of Commerce, ordinary merchants didn't have this qualification. From this, it could be seen that Chen Heihu was far from as simple as he looked. His connections were wild enough, and his background must be strong enough. If one thought that he was just an ordinary small merchant in the outer street and looked down on him, he might suffer a big loss. Lin Yi suddenly changed his mind and said, "Brother Chen Heihu, besides the business of spiritual beasts, do you also dabble in spiritual medicine?" Chen Heihu was slightly stunned and then replied, "Of course, spiritual beasts and spiritual medicine are not separated. However, my focus has always been on the spiritual beasts and I don't pay much attention to the spiritual medicine." "Lin brothers, why do you ask this?" "I've been looking for some elixirs recently, but they're quite rare. It's hard to buy them normally, and I don't come to the market often, so I wanted to see if you could help me," Lin Yi said. He originally planned to ask Hong Zhong to search for the heart-devouring grass, but now after seeing Chen Heihu's ability, he couldn't help but change his mind. With this guy's connections, he might be able to get the heart-devouring grass. "Well." Chen Heihu habitually stroked his beard and nodded. "Okay, Lin brothers, write down the spiritual medicine you need. I'll keep an eye on it for you. If I find it, I'll take it for you. How about that?" "I can't thank you enough. We can discuss the price. I won't let you lose out." Lin Yi's heart leapt with joy. Immediately after, he wrote down a list of spiritual medicines on a piece of paper. Other than the heart-devouring exquisite grass, there were also a few other rare spiritual medicines. Naturally, this was to fool others. Chen Heihu roughly glanced at it. There was some curiosity in his eyes, but he tactfully did not ask any questions. He directly said, "Brother Lin, don't worry. Although these elixirs are indeed difficult to find, with my connections, it shouldn't be a big problem. Just wait for the good news." The tone of these words wasn't small, but when it came to Chen Heihu, it didn't seem to be the slightest bit out of place. It was as if he was born with such remarkable abilities. Even Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh to himself. This fellow was an extraordinary person. After he was done, Lin Yi walked out of Chen Heihu's shop and headed towards the inner street. Fishing required a wide net. Even if he thought highly of Chen Heihu, he couldn't put all his hopes on one person. He still had to make a trip to the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Anyway, the Foundation Establishment pill was useful throughout the Foundation Establishment realm. Hence, the heart-devouring exquisite grass was beneficial to Lin Yi. He didn't have to worry about not being able to digest it. On the way to the inner street, Lin Yi didn't forget to pay attention to the small shops in the outer street and the middle street. These places rarely had any high-end goods. However, if he paid attention, he might have a chance to pick up some leftover goods. Some people who were knowledgeable and had outstanding eyesight even relied on picking up leftover goods for a living. For example, Yuzhe had done this kind of business in the past. Although Lin Yi wasn't like Yuzhe, who stayed in the library for 3 years and knew all kinds of rare treasures, he still had a ghostly thing on him. No matter how many ancient books Yuzhe read, in terms of knowledge, even 10 of them couldn't compare to one ghostly thing. There were so many shops in the market. If he really paid attention, he would always be able to pick up some leftover goods. As expected, Lin Yi very quickly discovered an unexpected surprise in an inconspicuous roadside stall. It was a pot of blue grass. Its name was blue glow grass. It was considered a relatively common spiritual medicine. However, what Lin Yi was really interested in was not this pot of blue glow grass, but the pile of black mud in the pot that no one would pay attention to. If it wasn't for the ghostly thing's reminder, Lin Yi wouldn't have noticed it. Compared to the ordinary blue glow grass, the origin of this pile of black mud was quite extraordinary. Its name was Pure Land. According to the ghostly thing, this kind of soil only appeared in ancient times. It was a kind of magical soil that could nurture life and spirituality. Due to the changes in the environment, Pure Land gradually became a legend after ancient times. Nowadays, no matter how much money one spent, one might not be able to find it. What made Lin Yi excited was that if Pure Land was used in forging weapons, it could increase the spirituality of weapons. The function of this spirituality could only be understood and not explained. It would not increase the attack power, nor would it increase other special abilities. There might not be any obvious visual effect in a short period of time, but the spirituality of weapons was a mysterious thing. After a long time, it would slowly show its magic. A weapon with spirituality and a weapon without spirituality were on 2 completely different levels. Without spirituality, it would forever be a dead object. Once it developed spirituality, it meant that there were infinite possibilities. Even the legendary growth weapons were no longer out of reach. First, there was the 10,000-year tree crystal, and then there was the ancient Pure Land. As such, Lin Yi was even more interested in the meeting with the King of Junk. Just thinking about how the steel staff would be upgraded was enough to make him look forward to it. However, the most important thing now was to buy the Pure Land. "Boss, how much is this pot of blue glow grass?" Lin Yi asked without batting an eyelid. When it came to picking up scraps, even if it was to stand out and make a fortune, even though he knew that the ancient Pure Land was a treasure that could only be found by luck, he definitely couldn't show any strange expression on his face. This sort of thing happened all the time in the market, and almost every stall owner was extremely sensitive to it. If Lin Yi were to reveal even the slightest flaw, it'd cause a lot of trouble. The stall owner looked up and down at Lin Yi. He vaguely felt that this person was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember him clearly. After all, in the past 2 months, the Southern Heaven Gate and Yuzhe had gradually quieted down. Even if he had seen Lin Yi's portrait before, his impression of him was already blurred. 7 pieces of spiritual jade. The stall owner was too lazy to think any further. He immediately called out the price. There was no way to avoid it. Lin Yi could only bite the bullet and face him face. He pretended to be confused and said, "Who are you?" Hearing this, Meng Jueguang was startled and looked at Lin Yi. Then, his expression suddenly changed and he said awkwardly, "So you're not Lin Yi. I got the wrong person." Lin Yi instantly let out a sigh of relief. As long as he didn't recognize him, it was fine. If Meng Jueguang found out that Lin Yi was the same person as him, then this matter would be really dangerous. At that time, Meng Jueguang would spread the news to the southern sky gate. Even with Lin Yi's current foundation establishment middle stage strength, it would be very difficult to deal with such a strong enemy. Whether or not he could keep his life was still unknown. Not daring to stay any longer, Lin Yi picked up the pot of blue light grass and glanced at Meng Jueguang. After that, he turned around and left. Looking at Lin Yi's hurried back, Meng Jueguang rubbed his chin thoughtfully. He couldn't help but mutter, from the back, "Why does this person look exactly like Lin Yi? Not only is their figure similar, but even their temperament is exactly the same. What the hell?" Inadvertently, Meng Jueguang's gaze swept across the stall owner's hand. Suddenly, he was slightly stunned. The spiritual jade in the stall owner's hand was actually very familiar to him. "Stall owner, let me take a look at your spiritual jade." A thought flashed through Meng Jueguang's mind and he hurriedly called out, "What?" The stall owner looked at him warily. This person must be sick in the head. Who would ask someone for a spiritual jade for no reason? Was he trying to rob someone in broad daylight? Meng Jueguang casually took out 2 spiritual jades and threw them in front of the stall owner. He said hurriedly, "I'll give you 2 spiritual jades in exchange for 1. This should be fine, right? Hurry up and give it to me." The stall owner took the 2 spiritual jades and examined them suspiciously. He found that they were both good jades full of spiritual energy. Only then did he throw the spiritual jade that Meng Jueguang pointed at. Meng Jueguang took it and carefully examined it twice. He thoroughly confirmed that the spiritual jade in his hand was actually the one that he had used before. Speaking of which, this was a complete coincidence. As everyone knew, the process of cultivation had always been boring. Once, when he used spiritual jades to cultivate, Meng Jueguang once had a whim and wanted to try microcarving spiritual jades. In the end, it turned out that he did not have this talent at all. A beautiful woman had been carved deeply and shallowly by him. It was extremely ugly and unsightly. Thus, there was this strange spiritual jade in his hand. However, Meng Jueguang remembered clearly that this strange spiritual jade should have been given to Meng Tong along with the other useless spiritual jades to be exchanged with Lin Yi. Why would it appear here inexplicably? In addition, there was another thing that greatly puzzled Meng Jueguang. The spiritual jade that he had given to Meng Tong was a useless spiritual jade that had almost exhausted most of its spiritual energy. However, the spiritual jade in his hand was clearly full of spiritual energy. Today's matter was really strange. But if this spiritual jade in his hand was not the original one, then it was too much of a coincidence. The spiritual jade of similar size had similar patterns on it. At that time, Meng Jueguang remembered clearly that when he was bored, he randomly carved a pattern on this spiritual jade. It was a symbol that represented him, Meng Jueguang. Of course, only he himself knew what it meant. If one did not look carefully, they would definitely think that it was accidentally formed when mining spiritual jades. It was no big deal. If Meng Jueguang was a famous microcarving master, then it would not be strange. The signature or symbol of a microcarving master had always been highly sought after. It was normal for people to deliberately imitate it. However, the problem was that he was a complete layman. Why would people waste spiritual jades to imitate a failed product like him? Chapter 39-41. This guess could not be said to be not bold and bizarre, but this kind of thing might not be completely impossible. Meng Jueguang knew that the Spirit Jade Hall had a special method to instill spiritual energy into the waste jade, turning it into a treasure. However, this process was extremely long, requiring at least a few hundred years before it was possible. The world was vast and full of extraordinary things. Cultivators were all people with hundreds of wisdom and remarkable abilities. Since there was the precedent of the Spirit Jade Hall, charging the spiritual jade in a short period of time might seem unreliable, but it might not be impossible. If that was the case, then the meaning of this spiritual jade really needed to be carefully considered. "Boss, where did you get this spiritual jade?" Meng Jiuguang's heart stirred as he asked. The stall owner gave him a baffled look, curled his lips and said, "It was given by the customer just now." It really was him. This answer made Meng Jiuguang's heart tremble. Now, he finally reacted. The first time he saw this person, he felt that he was extremely familiar, because he had seen this person's face before. Back when Yuzhe came out to look for Lin Er, he had Lin Er's portrait in his hand. Although it was somewhat different from the real person, the general outline was correct. And Meng Jiuguang just happened to have looked at this portrait carefully. In other words, the person whom he had mistaken as Lin Yi should be the Lin Er that Southern Sky Gate and Yuzhe had been looking for. And what made Meng Jiuguang even more suspicious was that this Lin Er actually had his strange spiritual jade. The strange spiritual jade that should have been in Lin Yi's hands. What did this mean? In addition, in order to find this Lin Er, Yuzhe had run to the welcome pavilion several times. The truth behind this was already on the verge of being revealed. Right now, Meng Jiuguang was at least 70% sure that Lin Yi and Lin Er should be the same person, just that they had used some kind of method to change their appearance. In the cultivation world, changing one's appearance was not uncommon. Aside from using tools like the human skin mask, even some unorthodox martial techniques could achieve the same effect. Even Meng Jiuguang himself found this speculation hard to believe. But if he thought about it carefully, he would realize that all the signs from before could corroborate each other. Just this point alone was enough to explain the doubts that Meng Jiuguang had for a long time. The waste jade with sparse spiritual qi suddenly became a good jade with abundant spiritual qi. Although he had been urging Meng Tong and the others at the beginning, the instigator of using the despicable method of exchanging a useless jade for a good jade to trick Lin Yi was Meng Jiuguang himself. And because the same method had succeeded time and time again, Meng Jiuguang was secretly pleased. At the same time, he also thought that Lin Yi was an idiot who couldn't even distinguish a useless jade from a good jade. But then, as he stumbled over Lin Yi again and again, and even watched Lin Yi grow step by step into an expert that even he himself was afraid of, Meng Jiuguang couldn't help but suspect that Lin Yi was a legendary newcomer. How could he have gotten to where he was today? How could he have come to such a stage today? Moreover, who was Meng Jiuguang? This kind of thing. Even if he used his toes to think, he would know that there must be more to it than meets the eye. Only a brainless idiot like Meng Tong, but he, Meng Jiuguang, was a smart person. Even if he got carried away for a while, he would naturally come back to his senses after a long time. Now that he thought about it, exchanging a useless jade for a good jade, this kind of trick was probably exactly what Lin Yi wanted. It was obvious that this guy had been baiting them to give him useless jade, so he could always get his way. Otherwise, even if Lin Yi was really stupid, the people around him would have stopped him when they realized that something was wrong. They wouldn't have let it happen until now and never cared about it. For a normal person, exchanging a good jade in their hands for a useless jade in someone else's hands, even if it could be exchanged for many, would be an out-and-out wastrel. But Lin Yi was obviously different. If his speculation was right, he should have some kind of way to quickly charge the useless jade. Only this could explain why the spiritual jade in Meng Jiuguang's hand inexplicably turned from a useless piece of jade to a good piece of jade. Only this could explain why the simple trick of replacing a useless piece of jade with a good piece of jade, which could be seen through by ordinary people, could actually succeed time and time again. All of this was obviously a trap set by Lin Yi, waiting for them to come to him and give him the useless jade. To think that they were so complacent at first, thinking that it was rare for them to take advantage of Lin Yi. Now that they thought about it, from the beginning to the end, they were basically played by this guy. In this way, all the things that happened before and after were linked together, the truth was already on the verge of being revealed. Even if there were still some doubts, they just needed to be further confirmed. Now, from Meng Jiuguang's point of view, the fact that Lin Yi was Lin Heir was basically impossible to run away from. Today's trip to the market really wasn't in vain. After thinking through all of these, Meng Jiuguang couldn't help but sneer. Originally, because of Lin Yi's previous domineering performance, he had already planned to reconcile with Lin Yi. After all, a wise man submits to circumstances. This was also something that couldn't be helped. Now that Lin Yi's strength was so strong that even Meng Jiuguang felt frightened, what else could he do? Now that things had developed to this point, it was simply unrealistic for him to count on his subordinates to kill Lin Yi. Regardless of whether it was Meng Tong or Murong Zhen, they were far from being Lin Yi's opponent. After all, Meng Jiuguang was a smart person. He had already deeply understood that if he and Lin Yi were to openly oppose each other, he would definitely be the one to suffer in the end. Meng Tong had already gone around the gates of hell once. If he came again, he would probably be dead. If things really developed to that point, Meng Jiuguang would definitely be in a passive position. At that time, even if he was promoted to third pavilion master, if he didn't have any subordinates, it would be impossible for him to suppress the overbearing Lin Yi. His situation was likely to be even more embarrassing and tragic than Lu Bianren's. Therefore, as a last resort, Meng Jiuguang decided to temporarily pretend to be courteous with Lin Yi. As long as he could temporarily stabilize the situation, it didn't matter even if he lost some face. When he stabilized his position as third pavilion master in the future, it wouldn't be too late to settle the score then. With regards to Lin Yi's sudden visit, even a calm old shopkeeper like Hong Zhong couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. Unlike Lin Yi, with Hong Zhong's position and level, as well as his close relationship with many of the upper echelons of the three great pavilions, even the slightest movement from the three great pavilions could not escape his eyes and ears. Perhaps in Lin Yi's knowledge, the ones who were investigating his identity were only the Southern Sky Gate and Yuzhe. But Hong Zhong knew that Nan Tianba, the eldest of the three heroes of the Nan family, had already returned from a mission. This person, even in the circle of core disciples of the three great pavilions, was famous for being not to be trifled with. Furthermore, with the backing of the Nantian family of the Middle Island, many of the upper echelons of the three great pavilions were rather tolerant of him. Not to mention Nan Tianba's protectiveness. It had always been common knowledge that when he found out about Nan Tianyong's death, he would definitely fly into a rage. Although for some unknown reason, he hadn't made any big movements for the time being, one thing was certain: this person would definitely not relax in tracking down the murderer of his brother. When facing the threat of such a formidable enemy, nothing had actually happened to Lin Heir until now. Not only was he safe and sound, he even dared to openly walk around the market. Even Hong Zhong couldn't help but be flabbergasted by such courage and ability. What shocked Hong Zhong even more was that in just a short span of 2 to 3 months, Lin Yi's strength had actually skyrocketed again. Lin Yi's middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm could fool others, but he couldn't fool Hong Zhong. With Hong Zhong's unfathomable strength and eyesight, unless it was an expert of the same level, no one could hide their realm in front of him. Even Lin Yi was no exception. This Lin Yi looked very young, and the last time they met, Hong Zhong could clearly feel that he had not advanced for long. However, he didn't expect that from the peak of the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm to the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm, a threshold that a normal person might not be able to cross in 100 years, could be reached in just a short span of 2 to 3 months. Even Hong Zhong, who had seen countless people, had never seen or heard of this kind of thing. Young hero Lin, long time no see, I trust you have been well. Hong Zhong secretly suppressed the surprise in his heart and took the initiative to greet him. Shopkeeper Hong, I trust you have been well since we last met. Lin Yi smiled and cupped his hands in greeting, then immediately went straight to the point. One does not come to a temple without a cause. Today, I have come to ask for a favor, and I hope shopkeeper Hong can help me. Well said, well said. If there is anything young hero Lin needs, please say it. This old man will definitely do his best. Hong Zhong immediately said straightforwardly. Having seen countless people, Hong Zhong had developed a good eyesight. Now, in Hong Zhong's heart, Lin Yi was a stock with unquestionable potential. In the future, it was very likely that he would become a person with great achievements. Being calculative was too short-sighted. At this time, to be able to do Lin Yi a favor, in his eyes, was a good thing that he could not ask for more. Lin Yi was overjoyed. He immediately repeated what he had said to Chen Heihu to Hong Zhong. After listening, Hong Zhong immediately called the shopkeeper over and gave him some instructions. To him, it was a small matter to purchase rare elixirs such as the heart-devouring exquisite grass. To him, it was just a small matter. Once he gave the order, someone would naturally do it for him. With such a simple matter, he could sell a rare favor to Lin Yi. Even if it was measured purely by the eyes of a businessman, it was still a great profit. Then, thank you very much, shopkeeper Hong. Lin Yi said gratefully. In this way, he finally had some confidence as to whether or not he could obtain the heart-devouring exquisite grass. With a Chamber of Commerce giant like the Hong Chamber of Commerce and a resourceful unorthodox person like Chen Heihu working together, if they still could not purchase the heart-devouring exquisite grass, then it could only be said that this was the will of heaven. Lin Yi had no fate with the heart-devouring exquisite grass. Young hero Lin is too polite. Hong Zhong smiled. Before Lin Yi left, he specially reminded him, the eldest of the three heroes of the Nan family, Nan Tianba, has returned. This person is not to be underestimated. Recently, he seemed to have encountered some trouble, so there has been no news of him. However, don't underestimate him. Chapter 39-43. If it was before, the information wouldn't have affected Lin Yi too much. After all, he had successfully diverted the attention of the Southern Sky Gate and Yuzhe to Kong Mingming. If Nan Tianba were to return, he should have been misled as well. However, the sudden situation just now had placed the danger in front of Lin Yi. If Meng Jueguang had really seen through his identity and leaked the information to the Southern Sky Gate and Yuzhe, then he would have to consider one thing: how to deal with Nan Tianba. Now that he had broken through to the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm, Lin Yi's strength had skyrocketed. If he was given a good opportunity, he might be able to deal with the Southern Sky Gate like how he killed Nan Tianyong. However, if his opponent was Nan Tianba, who was on a completely different level, then there was nothing he could do. Although he was unwilling to admit it, it was the truth. Facing such a powerful opponent, Lin Yi had no chance of winning. He could only run for his life, and he might not even be able to escape. To prepare for a rainy day, Lin Yi had to think of a way to prepare. If he allowed the situation to develop to this stage, then it would truly be a tragedy. After leaving the Hong Merchant Guild, Lin Yi did not stay for long. He immediately returned to the Welcome Pavilion. However, before returning to his cave abode, he purposely found a secluded corner to observe from afar. The scene that he saw caused his heart to skip a beat. Meng Jueguang and Murong Zhen were sitting next to the tea table beside the wooden house, flirting and chatting over tea. Lin Yi was not surprised at all by this adulterous couple hanging out together. However, Meng Jueguang's appearance here was definitely not to fool around with Murong Zhen. It was obvious that he had an ulterior motive. This Meng Jueguang was obviously trying to use this opportunity to confirm if he was the same Lin heir that he had met at the market. Luckily, Lin Yi was cautious enough to keep an eye out. Otherwise, if he suddenly appeared, even if Meng Jueguang was still a little uncertain, he would definitely be a suspect now. Lin Yi immediately dispelled the idea of going back to the cave immediately. He stayed where he was and started to waste time with Meng Jueguang. In any case, Lin Yi had always been in closed-door cultivation. As long as he did not take the initiative to appear, Meng Jueguang would not be able to confirm whether he was in the cave or not. Even if he tried to call the door, it would be useless. Cultivators never ignored people when they were in closed-door cultivation. Meng Jueguang stayed in Murongzhen's wooden house until the middle of the night. When he didn't see Lin Yi, he finally left resentfully. Before he left, he didn't give up and told Murongzhen to keep an eye on Lin Yi's whereabouts. However, Lin Yi's patience was far beyond that of an ordinary person. After Meng Jueguang left, he waited until he was sure that Murongzhen was completely silent and let down his guard before he quietly returned to his cave. This response might not be able to dispel Meng Jueguang's suspicions, but it was still better than having his suspicions confirmed. As long as there was no concrete evidence, this matter was still groundless. Meng Jueguang did not dare to act recklessly. This was the only chance Lin Yi could fight for. A few days later, Meng Jueguang did not continue to look for trouble. There was no news from Southern Sky Gate or Yuzha either. Lin Yi's response seemed to be quite effective. Following that, Welcoming Pavilion's pavilion master, Hu Yunfeng, gathered all the newcomers. Once again, all the rookies from the 3 pavilions were gathered together. Although the rookie assessment had ended, it did not mean that the rookies were completely free. Before the announcement of the newcomer assessment, Hu Yunfeng had personally said to all the newcomers that she would give the newcomers from Mysterious Pavilion and Blue Cloud Pavilion a chance to challenge the other pavilions. Challenge the other pavilions. Ever since the newcomers joined the Welcoming Pavilion, so many things had happened, and so many trials had taken place. This was the first time something like this had happened. Before this, the 3 pavilions had always done it separately. In an instant, the newcomers from the 3 pavilions had a tense atmosphere. Putting aside the internal affairs of each pavilion, this could be considered a competition between the 3 pavilions. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a battle between the 3 pavilions. At least at a time like this, the newcomers at the scene still had some collective consciousness. The reason for this challenge was to show fairness. Although everyone knew that the strong preyed on the weak was the unchanging rule of the cultivation world, as the upper echelons of the 3 pavilions, they had to at least put on a show. Even if it couldn't shut everyone's mouth, it was enough to make most people speechless. At this moment, the atmosphere at the scene was unprecedentedly tense. Furthermore, the difference in treatment was obvious. Many newcomers from Mysterious Pavilion and Blue Cloud Pavilion coveted the mountaintop cave abodes of the Soaring Sky Pavilion newcomers. They dreamed of replacing them. Now that the opportunity was right in front of them, they were all hesitant to move forward. They were the typical people who loved dragons. As the weakest group in the 3 great pavilions, they all wanted so-called fairness. However, when they were given the chance to use their strength to fight against others, they didn't have the confidence to do so. Apart from Lin Yi and a few other freakish newcomers, the Soaring Sky Pavilion was obviously far superior to the other 2 pavilions in terms of strength, especially the newcomers from Blue Cloud Pavilion. Even if people like Lin Yi and Murongzhen were included, among the newcomers from Blue Cloud Pavilion, only 6 had successfully reached the Foundation Establishment realm. The rest were only at the peak of the heaven stage. Meanwhile, among the newcomers from Soaring Sky Pavilion, there were already a total of 10 early-stage Foundation Establishment experts. As for the newcomers of Soaring Sky Pavilion, over the past few months, their respective deep backgrounds had finally begun to play a role. Even if they couldn't obtain building foundation pills during the newcomer trial, they could still obtain them through various private channels. With their talent and background, coupled with the fact that they had enough pills, the success rate of breaking through to the Foundation Establishment realm was naturally not low. Among the 15 newcomers from Soaring Sky Pavilion, there were 10 early-stage Foundation Establishment experts. This was clear proof. As for the newcomers from Mysterious Pavilion, although this group of old men could be considered tyrannical during their time as newcomers, breaking through to the Foundation Establishment realm did not depend solely on strength. In terms of pills and resources, they clearly could not compare to the 2nd and 3rd generation cultivators from Soaring Sky Pavilion. As a result, there were only 6 people who had successfully reached the Foundation Establishment realm, which was equal to the newcomers from Blue Cloud Pavilion. Overall, the comparison of the strength of the newcomers from the three pavilions was not much different from previous years. Soaring Sky Pavilion was the strongest, followed by Mysterious Pavilion, and Blue Cloud Pavilion was still the weakest. Chapter 39-44. Now that the so-called Fair Cross Pavilion challenge opportunity was placed in front of them, they were rendered speechless and looked at each other. Pavilion Master Hu Yunfeng took in the expressions of the newcomers and could not help but sneer in his heart. Didn't you bunch of newcomers clamor for fairness? Now that a great opportunity is placed in front of you, this Pavilion Master wants to see how you're going to face this fairness that you've been dreaming of. Faced with such a gap in strength, the Mysterious Pavilion and Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers, who were originally full of ambition, were all speechless for a moment. Although the Soaring Pavilion newcomers were powerful, it did not mean that every one of them was an early-stage foundation establishment expert. Among the 15, at least 5 of them were only at the Heaven Stage Great Perfection, which was not very strong. But the problem was that if only a few people came forward to challenge, even if they succeeded, it was obvious what kind of situation they would face when they reached the Soaring Pavilion's territory. Not only would they become the target of public criticism, they might even be blacklisted by many Soaring Pavilion disciples. From then on, they would be targeted everywhere, and it would be difficult for them to advance. This was not a consequence that ordinary newcomers could bear. In the end, the mentality of cultivators was not much different from that of ordinary people. When one's strength was not strong enough, they would have a herd mentality. If everyone issued a challenge to the Soaring Pavilion newcomers, then perhaps many people would be eager to try. But now, with everyone's apprehension, the scene inevitably fell into an awkward silence. In the eyes of the Mysterious Pavilion newcomers, although the Soaring Pavilion's mountaintop cave abode was good, their current cave abode was not bad either. It was just that the gap was not enough for them to take the risk out of desperation. As for the Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers, they were truly envious of the mountaintop cave abode, but most of them were only at the Heaven Stage Great Perfection. Even if they faced the weakest newcomer from the Soaring Pavilion, they might not have a chance of winning. If they really jumped out to challenge, they would be laughed at instead. What? Isn't this something all of you strongly requested? Now that the matter has come to a head, why aren't any of you saying anything? Hu Yunfeng deliberately swept her gaze over the Clear Cloud Pavilion's new disciples, her eyebrows raised in disdain. The newcomers were all speechless and unconsciously shrunk their necks. At this time, they did not dare to rashly stand out. An inter-pavilion challenge? This is something that you all strongly requested. This Pavilion Master deliberately applied to the higher-ups, but in the end, you don't even dare to fart. If you're so cowardly and irresponsible, how can you achieve great things in the future? As Hu Yunfeng reprimanded the rookies, his eyes finally landed on Xiao Hongkai. He still clearly remembered that this fellow had shouted the loudest back then. Being stared at by Hu Yunfeng like this, Xiao Hongkai couldn't hold it in anymore. He had a fiery temper, how could he stand Hu Yunfeng's provocation? Not to mention, with his current strength. Unless the opponent was an expert at the peak of the early stage of the foundation building realm like Meng Tong or Murong Zhen, they should have a certain chance of winning against any expert from the Soaring Sky Pavilion. However, Lin Yi had given them instructions beforehand. He told him and Xiao Ran not to challenge him recklessly. Whether it was him, Xiao Hongkai or Xiao Ran, they were not the kind of people who liked to pick on pushovers. However, if they were to challenge the early stage foundation building realm experts of the same level in the Soaring Sky Pavilion, it was hard to say how much of a chance they had of winning. The risk was not small. Moreover, because of Lin Yi's existence, he could guarantee that the two of them would have enough medicinal pills. In comparison, the demand for the cave abode at the top of the mountain was not too high. It was just that it was not worth taking such a risk for the cave abode at the top of the mountain. Xiao Hongkai had a fiery temper, but he had always listened to Lin Yi. Since Lin Yi had already spoken, he could only suppress his impulse. He simply closed his eyes and ignored Hu Yunfeng's mockery. Xiao Hongkai ignored Hu Yunfeng and Xiao Ran even less so. As for the other experts from Clear Cloud Pavilion, Meng Tong was still in a state of recovering from his severe injuries. Murong Zhen was kicked out by the Soaring Sky Pavilion in the first place, so there was no reason for them to rush up to Clear Cloud Pavilion's doorstep to make a fool out of themselves. Li Jingming was determined to keep a low profile. None of them had any intention of stepping out to challenge Hu Yunfeng. Still no one wants to challenge you? This pavilion lord has heard many people talking about how amazing this batch of Clear Cloud Pavilion's new disciples are, how heaven-defying they are. Too bad, it looks like it's all a joke. Cowering like a turtle, is this the so-called strength in your eyes? Hu Yunfeng continued to provoke them with cold words. Not only was he unforgiving, but this was also a rare opportunity for him to consolidate his prestige. He wanted to teach these ignorant newcomers a lesson so that he could manage them better in the future. But, he had forgotten that not all newbies would be suppressed by his schemes. At least, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do so. Not allowing Xiao Hongkai and Xiao Ran to challenge him did not mean that Lin Yi could not do it. With his current strength, he could absolutely suppress any newcomer. There was no risk at all. Pavilion Lord Hu, you haven't even announced the specific rules. How are people supposed to challenge you? Don't you think it's too early to say that you're a coward? Lin Yi said indifferently. Hu Yunfeng's face turned red. He immediately realized that he had been a little too hasty. He straightened his neck and said, "You newcomer really have no understanding. Do you need me to say more about this? The rules are naturally the same as the challenge. The only difference is that you can challenge other pavilions." Lin Yi smiled nonchalantly. He then stood up and said, "All right, I'll take the lead and challenge the newcomer from the Soaring Pavilion, Kang Mingming." As soon as he said this, the audience suddenly went into an uproar. Everyone's eyes immediately focused on Kang Mingming. Looking at all the newcomers from the three pavilions, there were two people in the limelight. One was the monstrous Rising Blue Cloud Pavilion's Lin Yi, and the other was the Soaring Pavilion's Kang Mingming, who was supported by young Master Su and Pavilion Lord Hu Yunfeng. The key was that these two people came from the secular world. It was said that there was even a deep hatred between them. Unfortunately, because the two of them belonged to the Blue Cloud Pavilion and the Soaring Pavilion respectively, in the eyes of the public, they were basically kings that didn't meet each other. There had never been a chance for a head-on confrontation. But this time, the opportunity finally came. Everyone present had the intention to watch the show. Being called out by Lin Yi in public, Kang Mingming had long expected this. With the conflict between him and Lin Yi would definitely seize this opportunity to attack him. Therefore, Kang Mingming had been secretly preparing since the beginning. It was just that his trump card was not ready yet. Where do you get your confidence and courage from? Just by stalling for time? Lin Yi smiled indifferently. Kang Mingming was never a strong opponent in his eyes. He was never a strong enemy in his eyes. At most, he was on the same level as Meng Tong. Even if he was smarter than Meng Tong, it was a pity that his strength was still his weakness. In front of absolute strength, any strategy was just a joke. Moreover, Kang Mingming's little trick was not a strategy at all. At most, it was just an insignificant skill. Humph. Insignificant skill? You can only show off your eloquence at this time. If you die with grievances later, don't blame me. Kang Mingming sneered. In terms of strength, he did admit that he was not Lin Yi's opponent. He still had this self-awareness. However, now that the pill fire bomb was ready, what could Lin Yi do even if he was strong? A pill fire bomb was thrown at his face. Last time, Shi Yuda was blasted into a cripple on the spot. Now, after a few months, he was still a cripple. Lin Yi, this arrogant fool, was about to follow in his footsteps. As they spoke, the two of them stood at one end of the arena. The audience unconsciously held their breath and opened their eyes wide in anticipation of this rare duel. Lin Yi was the strongest newcomer in Blue Cloud Pavilion. This was without a doubt. As for Kang Ming, at least in terms of fame and popularity, he was also the #1 newcomer in Soaring Sky Pavilion. Therefore, the duel between the two of them could be regarded as the pinnacle duel among the newcomers in Welcoming Pavilion. With Pavilion Master Hu Yunfeng's order, the pinnacle duel among the newcomers officially began. However, in Kang Ming's eyes, the duel had just begun and was already over. Because in his expectation, as long as he threw the pill fire bomb in his hand at Lin Yi's face, Lin Yi would definitely die. However, judging from Lin Yi's expression, this fool should not be completely aware of the danger. Kang Ming really did not expect that the various grievances between him and Lin Yi in the secular world would end in such a duel after coming to Heaven Stage Island. Moreover, he would personally kill Lin Yi in front of everyone. This was a wonderful scene that could only appear in a dream. Go to hell! Kang Ming roared ferociously. He immediately threw the pill fire bomb in his hand at Lin Yi's face without hesitation. At the same time, he erupted with all the strength in his body and retreated with all his might. The pill fire bomb was not only extremely powerful, but it also did not have eyes. If one was not careful, it was very likely that even Kang Ming would be killed. That would be terrible. Therefore, it was better to stay as far away from it as possible. However, just as the pill fire bomb was about to leave his hand, Lin Yi, who was originally dozens of feet away, suddenly moved. Before Kang Ming could react, he had already appeared in front of him the next moment. Your speed is really a mess. Lin Yi smiled coldly and then grabbed Kang Ming's left hand with one hand. He curled his lips and said, "It seems that you are hiding something in your hand. Do you need my help?" In an instant, Kang Ming was so scared that he had goosebumps all over his body. Not only was he shocked by Lin Yi's terrifying speed, but more importantly, at this moment, in his left hand, there was a pill fire bomb that had been prepared for a long time. If this thing was held in his hand for a long time, even he himself would not be able to control it. If it accidentally exploded in his hand, then it would be a big joke. Hey, do you want to die? Let go of me, bastard. Kang Ming was so anxious that he was flustered. The trump card suddenly became a hot potato and a life-threatening talisman. Chapter 3946. When Lin Yi spoke, Kang Ming was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. At this moment, he even wanted to cut off his own hand with a knife. In any case, it was better to lose a hand than to lose his life. New Deacon, you seem to be very scared. Don't you want to kill me with this pill fire bomb? Why don't we play a game? We'll stand here and see who dies first. Lin Yi said with a teasing smile. What? Stand here and don't move. Are you a madman or a fool? Kang Ming was so scared that his face turned pale. If Lin Yi was just a strong enemy in his eyes before, then now this guy had become an out-and-out madman. Kang Xiaoming wanted to kill Lin Yi even in his dreams. The stronger Lin Yi was, the stronger his desire for vengeance was. However, if the opponent was a madman who didn't know what was good for him, then it was a different story. Who would want to risk their lives against a madman? However, no matter how Kang Ming struggled, Lin Yi just held his hand and didn't move at all. After all, the strength gap between them was too big. Lin Yi was already a master in the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, while Kang Ming was only in the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. They were 2 levels apart. How could a guy who couldn't even defeat a master of the same level break free from Lin Yi's hand? Hey, you madman, let go of me. I really can't hold it anymore. This time Kang Ming was really scared by Lin Yi. The feeling of holding a bomb in his hand, and it would explode at any time, was as horrifying as it could be. The key point was that this pill fire bomb was made by him, so he knew how powerful it was. Once it really exploded, he didn't know what would happen to the madman Lin Yi, but at least he knew that he was definitely going to die this time. It was impossible to leave a whole body. The most crucial problem was Alchemic fire was irreversible. Once it was activated, it could not be taken back. This was completely different from Lin Yi's true chi bomb. Can't hold on any longer? Lin Yi's expression was as calm as ever. Then let go. You haven't tasted your own pill flame bomb, have you? In Kang Xiaoming's eyes, however, Lin Yi was as evil as he could imagine. This was the first time he felt a bone-chilling fear from Lin Yi. Even if he was lucky enough to escape today, he wouldn't be able to. He would probably be traumatized for the rest of his life. Neither retreat nor fight. Just what are these two doing? Seeing the two of them in a stalemate, the spectators below the stage could not help but frown. Only Kang Mingming and Lin Yi knew about the pill fire bomb. The spectators below the stage had no idea. They only saw that Lin Yi suddenly grabbed Kang Mingming's left hand, and then the two of them inexplicably stopped moving. They were looking forward to the fight between the two strong rookies, and both of them would be injured. It was just that what the people under the stage could not understand was that Kang Mingming's trump card was not only unable to exert its power in front of Lin Yi this time, but it became a hot potato that he could not get rid of. He was forced into a situation where he could not get off the tiger by Lin Yi. For a time, everyone couldn't help but start to look at each other. Looking at the embarrassed appearance of Kang Mingming on the stage, and then looking at Lin Yi's calm expression, this was not the peak of the newcomers' showdown at all. Kang Mingming, the newcomer deacon who had always been swaggering, was not even worth a fart in front of Lin Yi. Kang Mingming desperately wanted to break free, but Lin Yi always had an unshakable expression. It seemed that the pill fire bomb that even Kang Mingming himself was afraid of was really not worth mentioning in his eyes. This kind of feeling, at most, was holding a small gun in his hand that could not even break a piece of skin. That was all. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.